We should be live in just a second. There we go. We are live. Howdy, everybody. It's Prayin'NSquatchin tonight. My first guest is Jay Reed. He was gracious enough to come on and join me, talk about everybody's favorite big hairy subject, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Chitonga, whatever you want to call him. So we thank you for being here. God bless him. I'll let him introduce himself, tell a little bit about himself. We'll go into his experiences and so forth and so on. Mr. Reed, if you want to take it from there.
Hey, it sounds good. Thank you there, Barry. Yeah, it's been a few years since I've been out, except for last fall, or I should say last spring of last year. I found some pretty good findings over on a wildlife refuge here in Vienna, West Virginia. Shared them from time to time. Trying to find that photo, but it's on a different phone. Mainly grew up in Ohio, southern Ohio, and had quite a few different experiences with what people would generally configure as Bigfoot, which I more or less go by Sasquatch. And here recently, the Northwest Native people, I think it's a Ponca, that went by it when they moved to from Oregon, Washington territory into Canada. The name for Sasquatch that we take it as, they had it as the, oh God, what was that? I'm thinking of it and forgot it. That's bad. What was that? Oh, the Matah-Chegami is their theory of
Chegami.
Matah-Chegami.
Chegami. Do you know what that translates to, or?
It was their configuration of Sasquatch.
Okay. I know most tribes have got a slightly different name or title for them. Some of them mean different things. I just wondered if it had a specific meaning other than Sasquatch.
Well, the Navajo had a name of it called the Tatanka. My first experience with finding Bigfoot. Go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
My first experience running in with Sasquatch or Bigfoot in southeast Ohio. Parents had 110 acres near Wayne National Forest, and got into learning about different plants and stuff in the forested areas around the farm, and got into digging roots like yellow root, which people have known as golden seal, and then ginseng, and that's pretty much about where I got my experience. When you first realize there's no sound in the woods, and you're looking around, but you really don't understand what's going on. A lot of people I noticed jump up and run. Me, nah. Ain't no sense in running if there ain't nothing coming after you. First experience that was, I'd say late 89, 1990, Monroe County, southeast Ohio. Back part of the property on another property going into Wayne National Forest. Yeah, it was strange, kind of freaky at first, but I held my ground. It never made a move to come toward me. It stayed at least, being in a somewhat thick woods, not really a big brush. I mean, you could see a good distance and everything in the woods. He's probably 65, 70 yards away. He was uphill from me, which I just kind of backed down slowly. And it did the traits that I have learned that they do over the years. get behind a big tree and look around from one side to the other side, and didn't have another experience until fall of '91 when I was bow hunting. Got looked at while I was up in a tree stand. He was about 30 yards away. Made his way down into a ravine area, and where he went, I don't know. Couldn't smell him. I heard him come walking up, though. They don't really seem to me to be a violent species. Everybody talks about Bigfoot attacks these people, Bigfoot attack them people. No, they're more curious. It's like you go camping. Pay attention to your food that you got around, your coolers and stuff. Yeah, bears will come in for it. Well, I got news for you. If you're in an area, like some people around me, a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours over there in Virginia, where he goes to, yeah, Sasquatch does exist. Sasquatch is here too in the mid-Ohio Valley. I'm only a quarter of a mile up to the east of the Ohio River. And it's been spotted several different times between Vienna, West Virginia, and Marietta, Ohio, which is just 10 miles up the road. The river's anywhere from half to a quarter of a mile wide in places.
I'm about 50, 55 miles south of Ohio myself, here in Kentucky.
Yep.
So really, as a crow flies, so to speak, me and you ain't all that far apart.
No. No,
we're all right there in the tri-corner, or whatever you want to call it, area.
Right. Right in the Madrid area.
Yeah.
The old earthquake area.
I was going to ask, your first experience, about how large was the size of the creature?
Well, I'm 6'7", and he stood at least 9.5.
9.5 feet? Any idea what he would have weighed?
By weight? Well, I don't know. I've got some big friends around here, and he made them look, put it this way, Shaquille O'Neal looks little.
Mm-hmm. Well, anything is 9.5 feet tall is going to probably be the 600 plus range anyway.
Right in that area.
Just that kind of frame.
Yep.
Right in that area. Yeah. And like you said, people don't realize, how big. I hear people say, well, it was only 7 foot tall. You don't realize how big 7 foot tall is till you get right up against it.
Oh, yeah.
I've met a couple 7 foot tall guys, and at 5'6", I was doing this number at them.
All I do is lift my eyebrows a little.
9.5 foot tall, I'd have to lean back to look up at him.
Yeah, I'm only 6'7", so.
And like I said, you said you experienced a smell the first time?
Yeah, I did. Yep, it was different. It was strange. Kind of like kind of like a wet dog been sprayed by a skunk a week earlier. Wet possum has the same smell.
Kind of a
Yep.
Kind of a musky.
Yeah, kind of like if you're out in the woods someplace, or even a marshy area, and you step into the little bit of water, and that gray and then that black material turns up, the vegetation turns up, you get that pungent smell. That's pretty much what I smell.
Yeah. Almost what I describe like a rot smell when vegetation rots.
Right.
Yeah. What color was it?
This one was mostly a dark red and brown. His back was black. But in the front, he was mostly brown and red.
Well, that's interesting. I've never heard of I mean, you know how much I read and watch and listen to on this subject. I don't think I've ever heard of, lack of a better word, a two-tone Sasquatch, one color in the front and one in the back like that.
Well, the one I seen.
Most of the ones I've heard are either, like you said, the brownish red or black or.
The one I seen during the bow season that time, he was kind of a brownish black and gray. He had the gray line down his back. He had gray around his head.
You think that's just like humans, an age thing? They start getting gray as they get older? Or?
I figure that and their whatever
makes as much sense as anything.
Whatever their habitat of vegetation has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah, I was gonna say it could be a seasonal thing too. Some animals' coats get lighter or darker due to season and temperature and stuff.
Back here in the summer of '18, I rode my bicycle up to Newport, Ohio. Of course, I stopped in Marietta, just north of Marietta, Ohio. Paid $20 for my permit to dig and everything. That time of the fall, came across a black bear. It wanted to be in my direction. I wanted to be in its direction, and I heard something behind me. Then I had that pungent smell. The bear took off, disappeared, like something was on the field. When I turned around to look, the smell was gone. Couldn't hear a thing. And I was in an area of a lot of big red oaks and big white oaks.
That's interesting. Well, like I said, from everything I've read, listened to, the whole smell thing is about a 50-50. Some people smell it, some people never do.
No, there's
same thing with what everybody calls getting zapped or infrasound, the intense fear and all that.
Right.
Some people do, some people don't.
I pretty well grew up in the outdoors, so I have no reason to be afraid. The way I learned was the best way to break your fear of darkness in the wilderness, go find you a place out in the woods and sit up against a tree. Eventually you'll figure out what you're afraid of is actually yourself.
The way I always looked at it, and I ain't trying to be macho or a tough guy or nothing, being scared will just get you hurt quicker because you'll make mistakes. If you start panicking and freaking out. It's about like you said with the whole running thing. As far as the second you run, you become prey. And that's any predator, not just a Sasquatch, a bear, a cougar.
Right.
Big cat, anything. The second you take off running and turn your...
Yep, you disappeared. Don't know what happened there. You still there, or you capped out there for a moment? I mean to get back into the woods this summer. I guess he kind of blipped out there for a moment. Yep, here he's coming.
Dump me out for it. It'll do that every now and then. But I was going to say, even with a dog, an aggressive dog, the minute you show fear and run, you're doing exactly what they want you to do.
Oh, yeah.
And being a delivery driver, I've had my fair share of run-ins with aggressive dogs. So.
Oh, yeah. And I've lived in the deserts, so I know how to be around wildlife out there, the coyotes, stuff like that. We have coyotes here, too. They mostly run when they see you.
Well, coyotes are just like wolves. They'll use a tactic. If you start running, they're going to cut you loose from the herd and get you off to yourself, and then you're really in trouble. Because that's when the pack's going to come in on you.
Haven't seen too many packs.
Acting up a little bit.
Yours or mine?
We used to have a pretty good sized pack around here, and something thinned it out. We had a great big pack that ran the bluff off to the west of the house here. And one night we were sitting out on the deck, and you heard the coyotes sounded like they had something cornered or had something down going after it. And then all of a sudden you just heard something else in with the coyotes.
Right.
And all of a sudden there was fewer coyotes and fewer coyotes and fewer coyotes. And it sounded like they were screaming like something was tearing them apart.
Right.
I told Mom, I said, they done got a hold of something they can't handle.
Yep.
And eventually there wasn't any coyotes. And that was probably 3 summers ago. And I mean, I can count the coyotes I've seen on one hand since then. And you'll hear one or two every now and then, but you don't hear a pack anymore.
No.
And I've got my theories on what got a hold of the coyotes. I think they bit off a little bit more than they could chew.
Well, here in Vienna, I get out and drive around with a friend of mine, and I see deer all the time. Raccoons come around at nighttime, see possums and stuff like that. The wildlife refuge is about 3 miles east of where I'm at. I'm in town in Vienna, but what they call city. There ain't no high rises around here any taller than 5 floors. But anyhow, back over here. Yep, you blipped out again. We've got them around here from time to time. Hear them in the fall. Heard one this spring. Still listening? Here, you're back. Yeah. Around this area, between the OVU College and what used to be the Freemasons' home, there's ledges and stuff up in the woods. And it's strange to be able to hear sometimes parts of the year. Springtime, or even going into mid to late fall, you'll hear something over here on the mountain scream and holler and stop. And then listen over in Ohio. Like I say, it's a quarter mile of the river. Whatever's further up in the hills over there, in sparsely populated areas, you'll hear something over there answer. I've done knocks around here and people
from one side of the river to the other.
I've done knocks right around here and hear a knock back up on a hill half a mile away. So they're everywhere pretty much the way I figure. They say they kind of migrate like birds do, moving from one part of the country to the other part of the country. But what about the ones that are here, that stay here for the year? Are they too old to move on?
Yeah, I don't believe they migrate. I personally, from what I've experienced, I don't think they migrate. They might meander. For example, when they're not here, they might be 20 miles one direction or the other, pestering somebody else.
Right.
And then they come, I mean, they'll leave. They'll be gone sometimes for a week or two, sometimes for a month or two. And all of a sudden it starts back up. They're back. Now, where they went, I don't know. How far they went, I don't know. But I don't believe they migrate so much as they just meander. They'll start to wear down the food supply of one area. So, just like I've compared it to, you go fishing, if they ain't biting in one spot, you either walk a little bit up the bank and try a different spot, or you get in the boat and go a little bit up the river and try a different spot. Well, same thing. If they're in one area and they can't find what they like to eat, they wander the next ridge over or the next holler down the road 2 or 3 miles, find a big blackberry patch or a good herd of deer or whatever.
I figure with a lot of these X's and stuff they put in, and when they bow a tree over or something like that, I figure that's making a map for them to remember where they're going.
Makes so much sense. I've noticed with the bent trees around here, that almost always points towards water.
Right. Like the
Just
one
my
over
personal experience.
like over here on the wildlife refuge. You got the walking paths over there people walk on. I don't go on those. I get down in where the animals are going to follow the deer path. That's where I found that one of the four trees crisscrossed each other, bent over. And right down the foot of the hill within 50, 60 yards is Pond Run, which is a creek that comes all the way from clear back over Wood County Airport somewhere. Comes clear back over through Vienna.
And I think that's what they do. They don't stay right where humans are at as far as paths or campgrounds. They stay on the edge. Just right on the perimeter. Just like with farms and stuff, like the area I'm in, we're not secluded. We're rural, but there's other houses and stuff out here.
Oh, yeah.
But you go 100 yards off the road in any direction, you're in the woods.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not going to walk right up alongside the road and stand there with a sign that says "We'll whoop for candy" or whatever.
No.
If you walk 100 yards down over that hill there into them woods late afternoon, you might be surprised what you find.
Yep.
I think that's one of the major misconceptions about them. People think you have to go 20 miles up in the mountain somewhere, just no man's land to have an encounter. When actually, if you go a little bit past your own backyard, anywhere there's rural forest, like you said, water, food supply, you could find them.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of fish in the Ohio River. There's fish ponds around here on people's property and farms.
Yeah.
We have just a couple miles downstream to Parkersburg. You got the confluence of the Little Canal River that goes clear back into Burnsville, West Virginia. I mean, there's a lot of territory between.
Yeah, it's like I always say, people. Exactly. I tell people you forget just how great the great outdoors really is. Like you said, there's a whole lot of territory out there.
A lot more territory.
There's places down here you could hide a herd of buffalo, let alone a couple Sasquatch.
There's a lot more territory outdoors than what somebody can find sitting home on a couch.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of my attitude towards mainstream science. You got, and when I say mainstream, I'm not talking about Jeff Meldrum or Melba Ketchum or a handful of other scientists that actually investigate and study this subject. Your mainstream scientists are the ones sitting in a lab somewhere. Oh, that's not possible. Well, how would you know? You'd have to get out from behind your desk.
Right.
Like you said, you ain't going to find it sitting behind a desk.
No.
Evidence or experience, either one.
The strangest thing that's ever happened to me, and I don't talk about it very often, out hunting. I can't remember if I was actually squirrel hunting, come to think about it. Single shot 12 gauge, number 7 shot, fell down a ravine, smacked my head. I was about 2 miles from Dad's farm. And just as the sun, just as that last part of evening when it turns from light to dark, my dad heard something come off to one of the hills. We call them mountains here in the Appalachians anyhow. But anyhow, he seen something move across the pasture to the barn, and he grabbed a flashlight, walked across the road, shined over, and all he could tell is something had set something big down, and then it walked away. And when he came over, he found me. I was unconscious. So that tells me one thing, real quick.
You think the Sasquatch led your dad to you?
I think he carried me all the way back. He'd been
deliberately.
Because I'm in the woods. I used to be in the woods all the time.
Okay.
I mean, when you make yourself known in the woods, I mean, you go out there with whatever you have, apples and stuff, eventually you can become friends with certain animals. I've done it here in the city. I've hand-fed deer quarters of apple.
That's
Other,
pretty
the other,
incredible to think that one of them was either watching you the whole time and saw what happened, or come along and found you,
yeah,
picked
because
you up and carried you back that close to your house, your dad, and then got his attention for him to come to you.
yep,
I mean,
he
that's
just had
pretty
me sitting
incredible.
on the porch, waiting for me to come in that evening. 3 days later, while I was in the hospital, my shotgun showed up against the barn.
Audio's acting up a little bit, but I'm catching most of what you're saying.
Right. Maybe I pull
Well,
in
that
a
goes
little.
back to what you were saying about they're not hostile. I mean,
No.
if they were hostile, he could have easily picked you up and carried you the other way
Right.
and ate you, and nobody'd ever known what happened.
I've been tumbled by black bears before, but I've never been attacked by anything else in the woods. I mean, I don't. Anytime I ever go bow hunting, I learned my lesson about wearing doe scent and stuff like that because you can be attacked by a buck deer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, nature can take you out in a heartbeat. A deer can kill you. They got antlers and hooves like razors.
Yep. And the other thing we've got around here now in the forest and stuff, we didn't have back in the 80s so much, but we do now. Where they filled the forest area is full of rattlesnakes. Well, that's another thing you got to keep an eye out for when you're out walking in the leaves and the thickets.
Yeah. We don't have a lot of rattlesnakes around here. It would be timber rattlers if we did. Somebody will talk about finding one every now and then.
Right.
And we got cottonmouths and copperheads.
Oh, yeah.
Our rattlers are more down towards eastern Kentucky in the mountains. And I ain't saying it's impossible for one to or more to make its way down here, but there's rumors that went around here a couple months, it's been a few months ago. Supposedly, they released some along the river, and it had something to do with getting rid of the wild turkey population.
Right.
Which don't make a lick of sense to me.
Oh.
Because I'd much rather have wild turkeys around than rattlesnakes.
They're supposed to go in, and I guess snakes are supposed to eat the eggs. I have no idea.
Like I said, I'd much rather deal with the turkeys myself personally.
Right.
Well, I thought maybe we'd have another guest here in a minute. Jimmy Blinton sent me a thumbs up. I don't know if he's going to jump on or not.
Well, I hope everything's going all right for Daniel over there.
Yeah, he's got his convention this weekend, don't he?
Yep. No mun, no fun, can't get there.
I didn't have time to make it all the way to West Virginia where I worked so much and everything. By the time I got off work and drove down there, the first day'd be over. I might have made the second day if I was lucky. That's like when he came here to Harlan, Kentucky, I didn't even have time to make it down there.
Well, maybe if I went back to driving vehicle, I had the money to do it instead of riding bicycle everywhere.
Internet's acting up again.
Here you're coming back.
We have one person watching us. We ain't had any questions yet.
I don't see anyone else in here.
Well, did you have any more experience other than those you wanted to talk about, or what's that?
I ain't seen anybody else come in here. I ain't seen no blips on the bottom of my telephone.
Yeah. Well, the way that internet's acting right now, it's probably a good thing. It's just two of us. We're having enough trouble as it is.
Probably with the heat and everything.
Trying to think of something. What's that?
Probably with the way the heat and everything's being.
Yeah, it could be part of it. Well, like I said, I'm 14 miles from the nearest, what you would call an actual town.
Right.
So cell towers and service are few and far between out here. I don't have the best signal on a good day.
Yeah. My
Oh,
oldest
it
half
does seem to be smoothing out now.
my oldest half brother south of you down in Paris, Kentucky. Reed Orchard.
Oh yeah, Paris. Yeah, Paris, Bourbon County. I'm in Harrison. That's one county over. About 30 or so miles south of me.
Right.
30, 35, somewhere along in there. Now I've watched the local BFRO websites for Kentucky. I think Harrison County here has one reported. I don't think Bourbon County has any, which I know better because I've had more people than one come to me, and I'm not even a member of the BFRO.
So
But
I
I
know.
have noticed a lot of people that come to you on tip flat tell you I didn't want to go to the BFRO.
Right.
I don't have a problem with them, but a lot of other people seem to.
I just noticed here lately that there's actually a West Virginia BFRO, but I can't find the information as to where they're actually at in West Virginia.
Now I've met the guy that runs one here in Kentucky, Charlie Raymond. He's a pretty good guy. I don't know about West Virginia. Daniel probably be able to tell you if anybody could.
I snapped interested and just got a little bit of information. Didn't get a whole lot. Couldn't find an
Yeah.
address or phone number. Somebody
Well,
yesterday
sometimes
on
I
one
was
of
gonna
those.
say, go ahead. We got a little bit of delay. We keep stepping over each other.
Yep. Somebody on one of these networks yesterday said they were going to the Bigfoot Museum in West Virginia. I'd like to know where that's at.
I've never heard of one in West Virginia.
I hadn't either.
They probably talking about the conference and just maybe thought
Yeah.
they was going to a museum. I don't know. But I was gonna say, I think a lot of the times, BFRO guys are just like us. They got day jobs and
Right.
stuff, and a lot of them running the web page is probably about all they have time to do. They'll take a report and clean it up and stick it on the web page, and that's probably because they don't have common sense tells you they don't have time to run out and actually investigate every report they get. That'd be a 24/7 job all by itself right there.
Wouldn't mind it.
No, if it paid good, it'd be a dream job. But something tells me it don't pay too good either.
No.
I've always told people, anybody that's getting into the Bigfoot topic for the money, you pick the wrong career. There ain't no money in it.
No. But then again, you got them people that are in forestry and everything. I tried a forestry course one time, but there was a few things I didn't see eye to eye with the government on, so I didn't pass.
Well, not just that. If you try to get into forestry, like a game warden or something like that, people don't realize that takes a lot of training and education and
Oh yeah.
experience. Not just any Tom, Dick, and Harry can become a game warden.
Nope.
They are actually highly trained individuals.
I was into it just to be a ranger, as being one that patrols the areas and actually gets into the depths of the forest and stuff, to be able to teach people.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I looked into it. You got to have so many hours in botany, so many hours in ecology, so many hours in this, so many hours. It's actually, like I said, it ain't what everybody thinks it is. They think they get in a truck with a shotgun and ride up and down the road and check fishing license. There's a lot more to it than that.
Right.
Now, I've always been curious. I ain't never been able to get the guys or gals around here to say one way or the other. That's somebody I'd love to interview and be like, have you ever heard something? Have you ever seen something? If you could get them to talk they'd have to be a walking encyclopedia.
Right.
I think it'd be very interesting. And of course, I've heard, that they've been across the board, they're more or less told not to talk about it.
I'm gonna steal it.
There's like an official answer, and if they give you, what's that?
Oh, I had to go get a charging deal off the wall in my friend's living room because this phone's starting to have a low line on it. I'm gonna plug it in here.
I was going to say, I think there's a company line or whatever they have to code, like an official response, verbatim. If anybody asks you about Sasquatch, here's what you tell them, And if they go against that, they're probably looking for a job in pretty short order.
All I know is I've definitely been intrigued for many a years, from 1988 on to even now, and the exploration of finding out just what we know. The way I figure it ought to be proof enough. People talking about going out here and bringing bodily harm to them and everything. No, sorry. I believe they're as human as we are. They just got a different variance point.
I've long since got past the. I agree. I've long since got past the. They're just a wood ape. They're just a dumb ape. No, I mean, if they was just an ape, they'd be sitting in the zoo right next to the chimpanzees and gorillas.
Right.
They have got to be something beyond a gorilla or an ape or baboon or whatever.
Right.
Which leads to the question, you say they're as human as us. What do you think their origin is?
Well, this room I'm standing in is an 8-foot ceiling, and there I am touching it. I got news for you. Anything that is that tall or taller has got to be more than just an ape.
Yeah. Do you have any theories as to what their actual origin is? Where they come from or how they came to be? Or
Probably came across when the land bridge before it got flooded up in Alaska. Land bridge used to go across from Alaska to what today is Russia, Northeast Asia. You blipped out again. Still there? There you go.
I'm back. We got Wendell Burroughs from Arkansas ready to join us.
Hey, sounds good.
I'll bring him on. There he is. I brought him in. Can you hear us, Wendell? There he is. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
He can hear us?
Yeah.
You can hear us?
Me?
Can you hear Jay? Say something, Jay.
Yeah, I hear you, Wendell. How you doing?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
I hear you good.
All right. Well, Wendell, this is Jay Reed. He's up in West Virginia. He shared a couple of experiences. I don't know how much you got to see before you come on, if anything. And if he wants, he can kind of run through them again for your benefit. I'll sit here and listen again. I've already asked a couple questions, but that's up to him.
Yeah, I didn't get to catch any of it.
Well, I grew up.
Well, Jay, if you want to kind of.
Elaborate, okay. Wendell, I mostly grew up in Ohio.
Elaborate or just.
I mostly grew up in Ohio. Two different areas, but my later on adult life, as a young adult growing up, was in South Ohio. Never really gave much thought of primal animal being in the woods in the area. I always thought that was just out west. That's one thing I didn't say before. But became an avid yellow root and ginseng digger, and that's when I started having my first experience in one in the woods, off at a distance, less than 100 yards. Seen another one while hunting one time with a bow. The other one, well, when you fall down and get hurt in the woods and you knock yourself out, my dad heard something come down by the barn and got a flashlight out. It was just at that time of daylight where it was just before it was turning dark. The sun had already been gone. But Dad had seen a large object put something next to the barn and then walked away from the barn. Dad made his way through the gate over to the barn and found me unconscious. But there ended up in the hospital for several days. Had a concussion where I smacked my head. 3 days later, Dad found a shotgun in the same spot, leaned up against the barn.
Wow.
That's back up in Noble, Monroe County, 26 miles northeast of Marietta.
Wow. Yeah. That's a close encounter.
For sure.
Now, the audio cut out on me the first time. I didn't hear the part about the shotgun the first time.
Oh. Yep. That was kind of a weird one.
Yeah.
Try to figure out. I was practically 2 miles from my dad's farm on foot out squirrel hunting, fell down into a ravine, hit my head, got knocked unconscious. It evidently seen me, came across me, carried me back to the farm because it probably most likely been used to seeing us out and about on the farm, even though it was just 110 acres and out about. I mean, they had 110 acres to hunt on and farm on, and then plus whatever else was out and around. The neighbors that lived in towns and other places always had permission to go on their properties as well.
Right.
The Wayne National Forest in southeast Ohio is a large area, especially some of the places I've been ginseng digging and yellow root digging in the fall. You're most likely to walk into anything in there. There's places that I don't think, as one person told me, it's from the forest ranger's office there, north of Marietta, that there's places they don't even dare walk in, and I'm like, why?
They know what's there.
When it's so thick, you got to use a machete.
Well, I was just telling him. That's why I was just telling Jay there. I said, I would love if you could get one off to themselves and get a relationship where you could actually get a park ranger or game warden to talk.
Right.
Not the company line or the status quo answer, but to get one to actually talk. Just how much they know, how much they've been told that they're not allowed to tell us.
Right.
Wouldn't that be the dream interview or whatever you want to call it right there?
Yeah. They're out there all the time. They're out.
But like I told Jay, if they did it, they'd probably be looking for a job the next day.
Sure would. Yep, they got to follow the official guideline, say what they've been told to say.
Like I said, the company line. Yep, toe the line. Jay, if you don't mind, repeat what you told me about your first encounter. The part that I told you I'd never heard that before. About the two-tone. I've never heard this. All the stories I've read, listened to, reports, encounters. See if you've heard anything like this.
Where they've got the reddish brown on the front and the back is black.
Mm-hmm.
The reddish brown was on his chest, his arms, inner arms, a little bit on the outer arms. But when he turned and walked away, of course, I was learning to do the same thing they were doing. Learn how to stand behind a tree and then slowly look around, see if he was still watching me. And that's when he turned around and walked away. That's when I seen the whole back of him. He was black like a black bear.
Hmm. No, I've never heard
Have
of
you ever heard of one? Like I said, I found that really, like I said, only term I know that fits it. It's two-tone, just like a two-tone vehicle or house.
Yeah.
One half of it's one color, another one's complete. Yeah.
Well, I say that.
I found that really interesting.
The only other thing, kind of like my beard here, it's changing colors. It might have been a older one that was either its hair was been sun bleached or changed, but it possible to be two different colors and in two different areas. So I hadn't seen that though, other than one.
It's entirely possible. I just never heard it before.
Yeah.
I've seen one of them been bow hunting before, and
we was even commenting on that.
Seen one that was the dark color with the red, or if not red, somewhat brown. But you can see in the hairline, like when we get older, we get the gray hairline.
Reason I brought that up, one of the Arkansas boys, his encounter was with a dark gray one, but everywhere around his face and chest and everything was a lighter gray. So that was two-tone. So
years ago, there was one seen closer.
Well, we were talking about the different things that could affect hair color.
Diet,
eating.
We was talking about how it could be an age thing, or he mentioned Jay did their diet and vegetation could affect their coat and color and stuff.
Yeah.
Jay, do you remember what you told me about?
Oh,
he blipped again.
He disappeared.
He blipped. That happens.
Yeah.
Patience is a virtue.
I swear sometimes it's a conspiracy.
There he comes.
The internet's out to get me. It's a conspiracy, I'm telling you. I was going to ask Jay, do you remember what you told me about eye shine and the color of eye shine and how diet could and seasons could affect that?
Right. But you know something? I've never seen a red-eyed one at nighttime. And I have seen a few at nighttime. Their eyes more glow like a deer.
I just remembered, I didn't remember the details, but you explained it to me one time when I asked about eye shine, how some animals, their eyes would shine a different color different times of the year, or might change even due to their diet.
Yep.
Like I said, that's one of them learn something new every day type deals for me there.
Sometimes the deer's eyes are orange, and other times they'll look more of a blue. That depends on the time of year that you're finding them at nighttime.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I did see. I saw a blue eye shine one time, but I'm here to tell you it was 7 foot or better off the ground, so it wasn't no deer. I don't think there's too many, even the biggest. We've got a 10-pointer around here, and he ain't no 7 foot tall.
Not unless he's really reaching for an apple.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the funny thing was, Mom was getting ready to go to bed. I followed her in there. I just happened to straighten up and look out her bedroom window as I was getting ready to walk back down the hallway. Out there in the tree line, I see these two big blue eyes about 7.5 foot off the ground. Of course, I just stopped. Mom's like, what are you looking at? I was like, you don't want to know. Because this is only maybe 60 yards from the house or so out in the tree line. And I mean, it was like It was looking right in that window right at me. It wasn't looking off to the left or off to the right. They were looking dead at me. And I mean, I backed up the hallway. And they stood there and it looked like they was locked right on me through that window until I got up the hallway where he couldn't see me and I couldn't see it. What are you going to do? I ain't going out there. Not in the dark when I know there's something 7 foot tall standing out there.
Well, the other thing there, when you
And I don't consider that fear. That's common sense.
yeah, when you hear something out back of your house, you walk to your house lightly.
What's that?
Do you walk to your house lightly when you hear something back?
Yeah, I've tried. I'll tiptoe up to the window and I'll kind of do the peekaboo around one side and then the peekaboo out the other corner and see if I can see anything.
Right, yeah, because you walk too
without it seeing me.
Hear you.
I've always said one of these days I'm going to pull the curtains back and there it's going to be right on the other side of the window.
Yeah, I mean to say,
looking right back at
close to the window. It'll be right there at you.
It'll either look like me or look like Wendell.
I had one experience. Yeah. I had one experience. Me and Mom had just come home from the Cryptid Con the first year we went in Frankfort, Kentucky. We no sooner got in the house. And I was standing on one side of the living room and on the other side is the window with the air conditioning in it. And I heard something on that window, just like somebody tapping their finger, just like that.
Right.
Mom jumped up, run over, slammed the kitchen door shut and locked it. It's one of the few times I froze because I just stood there looking at the window. And I don't particularly believe in the whole mind speak or whatever you want to call it. I think it's more instinct.
Right.
But it was almost like a voice in my head. Don't go over there and look. You're not ready for what you're going to see if you look out that window. And it did it again while I was standing there staring at the window. I couldn't see nothing, but I heard it again, just tap, 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 tap.
Yep.
And that window was 7.5, 8 foot off the ground with an air conditioner in it, so it'd have to reach over the air conditioner to tap on the window. And like I said, it wasn't a literal voice, but it was like something in the back of my head. It's like, don't go over there and look out that window. You ain't ready for what you're going to see. So I didn't. I stayed right where I was at. And that was it. I mean, I guess whatever was doing it went its merry way. And Chicken Little stood right where he was at and let it.
Don't blame me.
Sound like a plan to me. Yeah, that's what I've done.
I mean, like I said, I ain't nothing to brag about. That's one of the few times I've actually kind of froze up. Like, didn't know what to do. Because, I mean, 15 foot away, you know? And like you said, one of these things, if they took a notion, they could reach right through the window and pull you right back out if they wanted to.
It's like my first experience.
Last thing Mom would see would be my feet dangling over this.
It's like my first experience. I just stood there and froze. And when it moved behind a tree, I moved behind a tree. That way I wasn't fully exposed. But then I'd step out and look. Hey, what's going on here? What did the thing go to? What was that? I don't have the frame of mind to run unless it's coming toward me.
Right.
As well as they move on 2 legs, you ought to see when they go through the woods on 4. Seen some videos on the web where they had them on camera. I don't know if it was a real Bigfoot or someone made it up. They look like they did pretty good down on all 4s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have a guy that had an encounter up at Mountain Home, and the one that he saw basically moved most of the time on all 4s. And it crossed the road in front of him, and within 2, I call it leaps because it put its arms down and pulled the back legs through the front arms. It did that in 2 leaps across the highway.
Yep.
Last thing I heard was basically moved from Wendell.
Oh, I was telling a guy at Mountain Home that we went up and videoed an encounter that basically most of the time when he saw it, it moved on all 4s because when it was crossing the highway within 2 leaps because it put its arms down, pulled the rear part through the front arms more like a guerrilla movement. But even at that, 2 leaps and it was across the highway. I mean, that was quick the way he described it.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There ain't nothing else on earth that can move like them. At least not on land.
Nope. Not that I know of. And I've walked through the woods, it's black, dark,
No.
and you can pretty well almost tell you what it is that's out there moving through the woods, whether it's a deer or a mouse. They say in the desert you can hear a pin drop. Well, I got news for you. Anytime you're out in the country where there's nobody around, you can hear a pin drop. You can hear an fall off a tree 50 yards away.
Yep.
I had a friend I went to high school with, a local guy here, shared an experience with me. He didn't see anything, but he heard a roar. He said, I've never, and he's a shed hunter. Deer hunts, but he shed hunts as well. So, I mean, he goes in the thick of it. He gets out in the woolly, no man's land, miles and miles off the road looking for sheds. He said, I heard this roar. He said, I do not know what it was. He said, I've never heard nothing like it before. I've never heard nothing like it since. He said, all I can tell you is it seemed like even the wind stopped after this thing roared. He said, it was right around sunset. He said, I didn't stick around to find out what it was. I got myself back to the truck and got out of there just as quick as I could. And he's not particularly a believer in Bigfoot, but he told me about that. He said, and that's how he described it. He said, it absolutely sounded like even the wind stopped. That's how quiet it was.
Yeah, if one of them's around, the forest is just dead silent.
That's usually what I go by, especially in the daytime, because I've said it 100 times. The crows never shut up. Crows will follow you from one spot to another and alert. And if the crows stop, then you really know something's up. Because they don't shut up for anything.
That's how crows are.
And I've had that happen. Have crows alerting and all of a sudden they just quit. What's that?
That's how crows are. I mean, ever go turkey hunting? You use your call or whatever. A crow hears it, and crow turkey know where you're at. They start calling and everything. They're letting that turkey know, don't go that way. You're going to be someone's dinner.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Same way with squirrels deer hunting.
And that leads into another. Oh, yeah. Well, that leads into another interesting thing you said, that's the crows letting the turkeys know if you go this direction, you're going to become dinner. I could very well see the whoops and the tree knocks being the same thing for a Sasquatch. Actual communication. That ain't just a noise they're making that listen to the gums rattle. That's an actual warning or signal. 2 knocks is humans, or 3 knocks is danger, 1 knock is safety. Now, I don't know the actual code. If I could figure that out, this job would get a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
Right.
I could actually see, I think they're intelligent enough.
I figure with their wood knocks and stuff, you can hear one do a wood knock to the south of the wood, and then probably within a minute or two, you hear one to the northwest of you or something. So that's how you know there's some type of code there.
Well, it was interesting what you said about, on opposite sides of the Ohio River howling backwards and forwards at each other.
Yep.
I mean, that's a set of lungs when you can talk across the Ohio River.
Right. Well,
we do it on the internet and it barely works tonight, but I guarantee if we were standing on opposite banks of the Ohio River, what's that?
It used to be different, though. As a kid around here, everything was rural. And I remember that in the evenings that the houses that they would holler all's well, and it'd go from house to house like that around here. So when there wasn't no cell phones or nothing like that. Of course, around here we're all family. The 6 miles either way, I'm kin to everybody because my grandpa had 32 kids. So that was another reason they did that. But
I was going to say, sound carries in the country and rural areas a lot better than it does in the city or more metropolitan areas. What I was going to say is if three of us are on opposite banks of the Ohio River, we could scream our full heads off and we ain't going to hear each other.
Right.
Not over the river.
No.
You'll hear something, but you'll never understand what somebody's saying.
That's just impressive what a set of lungs that takes to do it. What's that?
You never understand what somebody's saying that far away, but you'll definitely hear them. Especially if there's no other noise out there. I mean,
yeah.
Over here on this side, the major route is 14, runs up from Williamstown, clear down through Parkersburg. And then on the Ohio side, you got Route 7. That runs from northern Ohio all the way down through Parkersburg, down through Belfry and Ohio, and on down the river toward Huntington.
Mm-hmm.
Sound carries up and down the river. You may not understand what someone said a quarter of a mile away from you, but if they yell, you can hear something.
Yeah, you might hear something, but like I said, nothing compared to what you could hear with them.
Right.
Now, from our house, it's probably about 9 miles to the nearest highway, major highway, cross country. And I can sit outside at night and listen to 18-wheelers go down it clear as day. Sounds like they're driving through the backyard.
Yeah, I can tell you what direction barge
is going. The same way, the other direction, it's about.
Tell you what direction a barge is going. I was
going to say the other direction, we got a railroad. It's the same way. That train will sound like it's coming through the dining room sometimes.
Yep.
I know that one that we heard over at OART is about 50 to 60 yards from it, but it vibrated your chest and everything, and it went from a whoop to a scream. Yeah. But that's loud enough. Best I can describe it, if you've ever been by one of the cars that's had audio wars and how everything just vibrate, that's the way that was, and that was from it. So that's loud.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's where a lot of people get the whole infrasound. They think they use infrasound as that vibration and some of the effects it supposedly has on people. And I was thinking the other day, a lot of what people describe as being zapped or infrasound is the same symptoms of shock. The queasiness, the disorientation, fear, loss of memory, loss of time. So I'm wondering if what a lot of people are taking to be being hit with infrasound ain't really just a form of shock they went into, especially if they have a visual encounter. You look up and see something that you've been told all your life ain't real standing however far from you, let alone if it lets out a whoop or a roar to let you know just how real it is.
Mm-hmm.
Do y'all think that could be possible, that that's more of a shock thing than an infrasound?
Right.
Yeah. The human body does a lot of things like that. And
I try to find like a... What's that?
I said the human body reacts to a lot of things that way in different ways. That if you put in a odd, not normal situation and the body takes over to try to defend you, or some people in certain situations got super strength. So from adrenaline. So yeah, there's a lot of mechanisms in the body that we don't understand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some people get in a traumatic situation, and 3 days later they can't tell you nothing about it because their mind completely blocks it out like a suppressed memory or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they may not remember it unless they go to a counselor and have hypnotism or something like that done.
Right.
I just always try to look for the more common sense, mundane explanation versus the supernatural or whatever you want to call it. I mean, like I said, I'm no expert. I can't prove what I think's right any more than anybody else can. But
Have you ever had anything
like I
thrown
said, I try to use the common sense. It may not be. What's that?
Have you ever had anything thrown at you in your area?
I've never had anything thrown at me. I've always joked if I do, I'll pick it up and throw it back. But it may not be the best idea I ever had.
Well, sometimes yes, sometimes
No,
no.
I've never had.
I have had walnuts thrown at me when they were still green in the hull in the dark at nighttime over in Ohio, and turned around and throw it back up and find out that it came off the ridge probably 50, 60 yards away, and I was lucky to throw that far. Especially when you're throwing uphill.
That's why I say it may not be the best idea because they can throw a lot harder than we can.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've had rocks thrown at us and small limbs and all kinds of things.
Come down on the old farmhouse, and my dad goes, "What's that?" I says, "Visitor outside." It was right behind the house. It was a steep hill. It went up for about 180 feet, 45 to 80 degree angle. And he goes, "Well, it wasn't a nut or anything." I said, "No, most likely a small limb, piece of firewood we forgot to bring down." Look out the next morning, sure enough, piece of firewood on tin. No wind. Tell me how it got there.
It's one of those, yeah. It had help.
Oh, yeah.
Something had to propel it. It didn't pick itself up and throw itself down that hill.
Something threw it down there and said, "Hey, here I am."
Yeah. Well, now I've never had anything thrown at me, but before the house got slapped, we'd hear smaller thumps. And I always thought it was walnuts falling out of the trees, hitting the top of the house or something. Looking back now, I'm wondering if, like you said, it wasn't them throwing small rocks or walnuts or something up on the roof, trying to get our attention. And when that didn't work, well, we'll run up there and slap the house hard enough to shake it. Maybe that'll get their attention. And it did.
Then it goes back to the question.
I'll never forget that night.
Then it goes back to the question. Why do they want your
What's
attention?
that? What question is
Why do
that?
they want your attention?
Yeah.
Are they wanting you to come out of the house or what? And what's the reason?
Well, they want you to come out, or is it just a, hey, we're out here. We're your neighbors, you know? Like Jay said, I don't believe they're in initially hostile, because I've had 2, 3, maybe 3 situations where if they's hostile, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. Because they was that close, and I would have never known they was there if they hadn't moved or made a sound. And they went away from me, so if they'd been hostile, they wouldn't have run away from me. They'd have come towards me, and like I said, I wouldn't be here to tell you about it.
With my situation back in the early 90s, I figured he saved my life.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't have found my bones or anything until deer season.
Exactly. That's what I said. If it had been hostile, it could have picked you up, carried you the other direction, and ate you, and nobody'd ever known what happened. You'd have been a missing persons, David Pilati's 411 case.
And I looked then like I do now. I had some type of ambition and smarts.
Yeah. And I mean, 9 out of 10 reports and cases you read about or listen to, they're not really hot. I mean, just like me, if they'd have been hostile, the witness would have never made it back to tell you about it.
Right.
You know, even when what they call a bluff charge. Well, yeah, it's a bluff charge. If it had been a real charge, you wouldn't be here to tell us about it.
Right. I've been grunted at. I've been growled at. Whooped at. Screamed at. One time I thought it was just a bobcat, and I went looking for it. And well, when you see them eyes 8, 9 feet off the ground, that's not a bobcat.
Usually, the only time they're aggressive if
Now,
you
I
don't.
think they can be territorial.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The only time they're aggressive is if you're in their territory, and you ignore the warnings that they give you, the grunts and the growls and stuff being thrown at you, and you keep going into right where they're at, then they can be aggressive.
right. That's why I avoid any places that got
Yeah.
non-man-made caves and stuff. I'll look at them from a distance with a pair of binoculars before I approach the area. At nighttime, I definitely don't want to go in a rock ledge area.
Well,
Any place you can crawl in or walk in underneath. At nighttime, you don't know what you're walking up against under a rock ledge. But daytime, a lot easier to see even at a distance with binoculars. Then it's usually more likely it's safe.
well, that's always been my golden rule. I get out of the woods before sundown. Nighttime belongs to them. You know, it's one thing to push your luck a little bit during the daytime, but it'd just be a fool's errand to be out there at night.
Well, hunting season, that sun goes down pretty quick. You can be within 100 yards of the house. And
Well, it's one
like,
thing if you're armed and you got other people with you.
I always hunted by myself. Every once in a while, someone would come in. My dad knew they'd let them bow hunt or shotgun hunt on the property, but they had their own way of doing things, and it wasn't mine because I was more or less a loner when I went hunting. And one friend, he lives up in Woodstock, Illinois. I won't say his name, but he's had an experience with them too. We put a pallet up in 80 feet up into a red oak tree one time, made a tree house out of it, and he's had his experience of seeing them around, hearing them. He spent nights up in that pallet tree house up in the woods. He blipped out again.
Yeah. But yeah, usually by yourself and a loner is the best way to have an encounter because they don't feel threatened or nothing. They won't come right in on you.
And people carry guns and stuff on them in the woods and everything. Well, that's for their own safety, I figure. I always have a hunting knife with me, and if I'm digging out in the woods or whatever, if I'm looking for roots and stuff, I got one of them little trench shovels with me. So I figure I'm pretty well taken care of with if anything try to come at me.
For the most part, yep, on everything.
If nothing else, try to outrun it. The only thing I know about bears, the one thing I know about bears, don't ever try to run uphill from one because they'll catch you. Found that out the hard way.
And Daniel Benoit taught me a bear cannot run downhill because where their front legs are shorter than their hind legs, they'll tumble. I did not know that. And that's how he said, when I told him about my partial encounter where I got the glimpses of it, he's like, was it running downhill? And I said, yeah. He said, well, then it wasn't a bear.
Nope. Bear can run like on the level.
But I was just thinking, you know, we talk about carrying firearms and weapons. Go ahead.
Bear runs on the level uphill, but going downhill, like you said, they got shorter front legs, so they tumble. I got rolled one time by a black bear in southeast Ohio because I ran uphill. Later on, I found out it's a better idea to zigzag when you're going uphill. They're less likely to catch you. And for those that carry firearms, well, that's their determination, I figure, just in case they have something possibly might go wrong in the woods or something. Like a challenge. I've never been in a situation where I challenged anything in the woods. Not one bigger than me. I'm 6'7".
I was trying to do something, see if I can get my audio straightened out.
Well, we've had a few experiences at night. Yeah, it was definitely we was challenging. It turned out, but they're smarter than we were. But up at Sillamore National Forest, we was trying to push a little group of them, and there was juveniles, and then a older one had showed up, and the two juveniles had split off, and or three of our team members, one of them like to get his head took off by one of them.
Ooh.
But that's back to we was in their home range at night and trying to push them in front of a camera, so didn't work out too well.
I heard tell one time back up where I was born in Massachusetts that some young kid was about 13 years old. He was down in the woods behind his grandparents' house, and a juvenile Bigfoot or Sasquatch, he found it, and it was trying to lure him away. And he finally decided, or he realized what was going on, because there was a bigger one off to his left and another one off to his right. He hightailed it back to his grandfather's house.
He was lucky.
Yep. Because there's a lot of folklore on that with the Native Americans, where their children would wander off and never come back.
That's back to them slapping the house, and what are they doing? Are they luring you out the same way with them kids?
Yep.
But a lot of it is not following that, I don't say sixth sense or whatever. If it's time to get out of there, it's time to get out of there. But the kids don't know that, so they just keep wandering off further and further, and then far enough they're got.
Yep. I use a 93-inch by 2 foot by 3 foot BV Mountain one-man tent. Looks like a Twinkie in the woods.
Yeah.
You know, you hear some of them stories where the guys, when they were younger, laid in a sleeping bag out in the northwest someplace and got picked up and walked off with them.
Well, the same where we was at Sillamore, but the night before, one of our guys that helps us, Dale Bullock, he had one grab his tent and tried it. It could have if it wanted to, but he had the dog asleep in the tent with him. When it grabbed onto the tent and started to pull it, you know, the guide ropes and everything got tight. The dog spoke up and, well, it run off then. But
yep.
He got out of the tent and he thought it was us that was messing with him and everything. We was all asleep. He says now, I ain't never sleeping in a tent again. Lucky he had the dog with him.
If I sleep in a hammock in the trees, I make sure I'm a good 20 feet off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, with that BV one-man tent of mine, yeah, I've put myself out there as bait. Nothing ever happened, though. Even in an area that was suspicious. I mean, not all areas that you go into, you're going to find evidence of Sasquatch being there.
No, and they might be there today and then gone tomorrow.
Yep.
It just depends on if they're moving through in their home range or if you're right on top of them where they live at all the time.
It's like the circumference of the area, the circle that a bear or a deer travels in. Sasquatch the same way.
Yep.
Sasquatch decided he don't want nuts and berries and roots. I'm going to the river. I'm going to the creek. I'm going to find fish. I'm going to find crawdads or freshwater clams or mussels.
We got an area over at Prayin'NSquatchin, and it's on top of a mountain here, and a ledge. On this ledge, there's little piles of where they've took snails and just broke them open and laid them there and piled it up. There ain't no other animal going to pile up
Oh, no.
6-8 inch pile of hulls of snails. And it's everywhere there's a ledge at around on this cliff. That's I've asked other people if they've ever noticed them eating snails, but that's exactly what they're eating because the food source is there somewhere.
Right. Well, it's the same way with mussels and freshwater clams down around, well, they're north of where Barry's at, down there, up there at Blue Lick. There's been many a times people have found piles of different shells and stuff that weren't there the day before, but it's not a bear track, it's not a raccoon.
Yeah, I mean, even all that kind of stuff eats it, but they ain't gonna pile up a big old pile of them, and they're gonna be moving around. We done lost Barry again. He's having internet problems tonight or something.
I'm on cell phone.
You hear me?
I hear you, but we don't see you.
Can you hear me at all?
Yeah.
That's all right. I'll turn my camera off, see if that makes the audio any better.
We can hear
Can you
you.
hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can hear you all better now. I might leave my camera off. I was going to say, just a few minutes ago, we talked about, carrying firearms when you're hunting and stuff.
You were saying?
You all together. He's talking about firearm. I mean, I suggest anybody, if you're out in the woods, you never know who or what you're going to run up on, so you need some kind of protection.
Oh, yeah.
Most people are.
Types of knives. I got a double-edged hatchet I carry. It looks like a Thor hammer. Wear it on my hip. Yeah.
But if you're out there like that.
What I was going to say, it goes back to, you read a lot of reports and stuff. The Sasquatch don't care if you're carrying a firearm.
Nope.
How many reports have we all read, where they walk virtually right up to a hunter holding a rifle or a shotgun and just almost dare them to lift it?
Right.
Kind of give them that look, like, you want to try me on for size? I mean.
Most
because face it, a creature this size, I was gonna say you better be packing a cannon, where it doesn't matter if you hit something important, or you better make the first shot count. One of the two.
Yeah, right. You got to hit for soft areas, eyes or groin or someplace like that. That's not very hair covered.
Go for a kneecap.
Yep. But it ain't the one you're shooting that you got to worry about. It's the everyone else. Because everywhere we run into one, there's more.
Yep. It's always the one you don't see.
Mm-hmm.
I figure they pretty well walk in their own pack of their type of people and stuff. So, well, there's one. But then again, you never know. There's always that one scavenger.
Yeah. They are loners that get out. And a lot of times that's the ones you'll have trouble with because a loner ain't got nobody to help feed. So he's going to get into your garbage. He's going to get in close to the house. Anywhere there's easy food. And most people, that's how an incident will occur. They're in close and that's why it's because they're a loner and they're just having to fend for whatever they can get.
Like in the fall, going into the wintertime, late summertime, anywhere in the Wayne National Forest, whether it's the one in the southeast Ohio or south central Ohio, people actually get to where they had to put the trash cans in their garages because when they wake up, they're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
One guy said the trash was dumped out and the two trash cans were sitting side by side 1.5 miles away next to two trees down in the ravine.
Huh. They just grabbed it and went.
That's not a bear.
No.
They were picked up and carried.
And a lot of times they'll have stuff out of the trash cans and they'll bring it and put it on your porch or something like that. And that's what they like.
Yeah.
They want you to throw more of that out. I've had 2 encounters like that. People's told me about.
What I was going to say, the bringing back what they like thing. Me and mom's friend and her mother, this family was having experiences with these creatures going back 2, possibly 3 generations. And the mother passed away just here recently. They sold the property or getting ready to sell it. But the mother said that she would leave pop cans on her back deck in the trash. When she'd go out, she'd find the pop cans in a trail leading down to the wood line, one right after another, turned upside down like something had thrown it back, put it down, thrown it back, set it down, all the way back down to the. And I always thought that was kind of out there. Bigfoot ain't coming up on your deck getting you empty pop cans. And then I've told Wendell about this. I don't know if Jay's heard it or not. Something started getting in the trash here at one point. I found 2 pop cans turned up in the middle of the yard. Nothing else is taken out of the trash. 2 Mountain Dew cans sitting face down in the middle of the yard out from the deck. I looked at Mom and I was like, all of a sudden, that lady's story about the pop cans don't sound so silly.
You take a 5-pound plastic jar.
Now, I ain't saying it's impossible for a raccoon. What's that?
Take a 5-pound jar of peanut butter, open it up, take the foil wrapper deal off the top of it, put the lid back on it, set it on a stump near the wood someplace, like I did. I've done that before. And 3 to 4 days later, the jar goes back up, even though it was plastic, and it was almost clean with the lid on it. Bears don't open up jars and put lids back on.
No.
I am trying to throw a comment up here for y'all to see. I don't know if y'all can see Scarborough squash.
Yeah, I see it. The loner male Bigfoot may be a more aggressive. Yeah, I agree. That's what I've come to find out.
Yep.
And then you have areas to where
There it is.
I would say that just like in the human population that we have hunters that hunt in certain things, we have an area that's over western Arkansas where campers and hikers keep going missing, and then they find them a year or so later that their body's been dismembered and everything. And I think certain clans or groups are more aggressive as far as they'll actually hunt people to kill them or take them to eat them. Hunt them for some reason. Let's just leave it at that. Than other groups, but the majority of the groups are peaceful. It's when you run into that one loner group that you shouldn't have been there.
I've been in places long.
Every time somebody talks about the loners, I think about outcasts. Other animals will throw the outcasts. You got Lobo wolves, are usually the meanest wolf in the pack. The rest of the pack ran them off because they were so mean.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't even work with the rest of the pack. And some big cats, lions, prides do the same thing. If they got a troublemaker, they'll kick it out. So Scarborough could very well be onto something there. The loner males might be your, I guess, troublemakers, for lack of a better word, that have been kicked out of a clan or family unit. Or
yeah, that's like if you had.
Because in general, I think they tend to. They don't. What's that?
Two alpha males that's in a group, or one that's growing up that thinks he's the big shot now, and he challenged the alpha male and lost, or vice versa. If the new alpha male took over and the older one is out on his own now. All of a sudden, he's got to fend for himself. That's people were the same way back then. But yeah, big cats do it. Wolves do that. If somebody challenges a alpha male and they get pushed out, then they got to take care of themselves.
Well, they do the same thing in primates with gorillas and chimps and stuff like that as well. So, I mean, mankind's been following it for as long as mankind came to Earth.
Yep.
Or I should, from the time mankind was created.
Yeah. Barry's gone again. I guess. Yeah.
Yep, now he is. Arkansas. One thing I found out about that state, it don't matter if it's daytime, you had better have your headlights on.
Oh, yeah?
Anytime I ever drove through Arkansas daytime, didn't have my headlights on. Sure enough, get pulled over.
Huh. Knock on wood, I guess I ain't been pulled over about 3 times in all my driving history.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get out here again this summer. All depends on me. Last year I had double pneumonia, and with the double pneumonia, ended up with blood clots in the lungs, and nobody with pneumonia history's ever had that. So they figured I had a small case of COVID. And at the time, yeah, I have days where I don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get myself built back up. I ride bicycle all the time, so.
Well, that's good. Yeah, we try not to get out a lot, go out and look for evidence and everything, and during the summer. And we got kind of a small outing maybe planned next weekend, but usually we avoid the summer, wait till fall when it's cooler weather and the leaf cover's gone and you can actually see what's going on. But
right. Later in the weather, you got less small stuff running around on the ground.
Yep.
Less chance of running into a snake.
Yep.
I always had that when I go out.
Pretty much the same thing here. It's pretty much the green hell here right now. Everything's so thick and dense, you can't see 30 foot in front of you. So I've moved all the cameras and audio recorders up closer to the house where I can get to them a little bit easier. I'll be a little bit less likely to have a heat stroke while I'm squatching.
Always carry water.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's been.
Have any of y'all ever done any experimenting with the audio recorders?
No.
Do what? What was that?
You want to know if anybody's done any experience with audio recording?
Yeah, we've put out several, and we got some whoops and calls on them, and sniffs, it sounds like. But that's about it. We had them disappear, be taken plumb out of the plastic bottle and everything we had it in, and it's gone. And then a month later, we'll show back up on a rock. Battery, it didn't have nothing on it, though. That was weird.
Yeah.
You'd think at least it would have recorded something, but no.
Some type of sound, the breathing or a grunt or something.
Something when they was taking it out of the bottles. Because what way we do ours, we take a old chocolate milk bottle or white milk, and we cut one side of it out and then we cover it with moss. That way you can place it in a tree and everything where the water won't get on your recorder. And that works pretty good for us. But you'd think that would be hiding it, but no. They're either smelling our scent or this plastic scent or something.
Right.
So they go right to it every time. On the ones that
I'm just learning.
left there, like I said, you get a lot of them huffs and puffs and stuff from it. And a lot of people say, well, that's some other kind of animal, but it ain't no deer or nothing 8 feet up in the tree. I guess a squirrel or a coon, if it was right that close, would sound like that. But it's awful deep huff and puffs.
He'll have to read what he put online there because I can't see it.
It says, snakes, are they a problem in your areas? Yes. In my area, they are.
If you smell cucumbers, you've got copperheads.
We was talking about that earlier. He was talking about the rattlesnakes, and then here we've got the copperhead and water moccasins and cottonmouths.
Yep.
Cottonmouth and water moccasin, you're around the creek and everything. You smell that. It's a sour smell. You're right there by one, close.
Yep. The copperhead, they smell like cucumbers.
Huh.
Kind of a pungent cucumber.
Right.
It's real bad when you get down on the ground and dig a nice ginseng stalk, and there you are within inches of a big old copperhead.
It's been years since, or I was a teenager since we did ginseng. My uncle, he was big into that and mailed it off and he was retired, but he made most of his money, extra money that way. And he's the one that first told me to stay out of certain areas because of the woolly boogers, and that's where he had found them, out ginsenging.
Yeah. I was going to say, the Bigfoot will never have to worry about me bothering his blackberry bush if copperheads cling to berry bushes. If there's a copperhead in it, they can have it.
That's me. I stay away from them snakes. Or try to.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask something before the last time my internet gave out. Now I can't remember what it was.
They give out again. Maybe he'll remember it now.
He disappeared. Yep. I guess that happens when you're over 50.
Yeah. I'll never know if I get Alzheimer's because I've always had some timers. Sometimes I remember what I'm here after. Sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, sometimes I'll forget what I'm doing while I'm doing it.
I can remember a face, but names is something's always been hard for me to remember.
Yep. Like around here, everyone tells me I'm a tall person. I go, well, the only way I know that is if I go to Walmart.
Yeah.
Because everybody's short there.
Yeah, I'm usually that way. I'm 6'5", but there's one guy here at Clinton at the Walmart. Every time I run into him, and I come in top of my head's at his shoulder. So he's a big old boy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how tall he is. Well, like I said, I'm 6'5", and my head's at his shoulder, and I weigh 383, and he probably weighs 50 pounds more than me, so he's well over 400 pounds. That's a big old boy.
Last week they put me on the scale at 282. Yeah. Wait till he gets back. My nickname is a pretty good one.
He's back.
Back.
I'm back. What I was going to ask, we was talking earlier about, you notice sometimes certain parts of the years they seem to go away or disappear. And me and Jay was talking about we don't think they migrate so much as a meander. But I was thinking, this hot time of the year, if it's rough on us, imagine being 600 to 800 pounds and covered from head to toe in thick fur. And I wonder if they don't go subterranean more during the hot months, go underground to get a break from the heat.
They do, and you'll have more water, edge of the water sightings when it's real hot weather.
I don't know if you remember, Barry, there a year or so ago on.
We lost Jay for a second this time.
Lost me. Where'd I go? I'm here.
You're here?
Okay.
I'm here. Are you there?
And on Facebook a year or so.
I noticed Jay's picture blacked out. I don't know if he can hear us or not.
I can see
If he'll say something, we'll see if we hear him.
I can see you.
Yeah.
You can see me?
Yep.
I can see you both.
I can see all three of us.
I can see you. I just can't see Jay.
I can't.
I must have overtook the camera.
I've got a buffering circle going around from in between us where Jay should be on my screen.
There's a mass cave system in the United States, and I believe it's a good way of looking at that the Sasquatch or Bigfoot probably use them to get in out of the heat. And they probably use them as well in the winter
I got
time.
that comment up finally anyway. Scarborough says, yes, I had a Sasquatch encounter due to a Saskatoon berry patch. Really now? Would you like to come on and tell us about it?
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I'd be interested to hear about it.
Yep.
Scarborough, if you want, I can throw the join link up here again. I'm sure the internet will love me adding one more, considering how bad it's acted up with just three of us.
But yeah, he was talking about that cave system.
There's the
that it goes all across the United States, and it's all linked. And I believe they use that constantly to move from areas and to stay warm, stay cool, and it's just like their living areas a lot of times.
Yep.
Yeah.
Their own passage.
I'm a firm believer that they're the ultimate opportunists. So if they can find a cave or an old house or an old barn or mine or whatever, they're going to use it for shelter.
Yep.
And if there's tunnels, they're going to use them just like me or you would use a trail or a road. Because if you're 8 to 9 to 10 foot tall and wish to move about,
Poof, he gone.
Totally understand. Yeah. With the system of tunnels and caves and stuff. I mean, here up in Ohio, we have Flint Ridge. There's a cave up there. It comes out down in Kentucky, clear down in Mammoth Cave. But that took like 78 hours for the people to figure out where they were going with GPS and scuba tanks. Everything they packed in, they had to pack out because they didn't want to leave anything underground. And that was back in the 90s.
well, what I was going to try to say there before my internet died again, if you're 8 to 9 to 10 foot tall and you want to move about unobserved, the best way to do it would be underground.
Oh, yeah.
Daylight or dark, it wouldn't really make a difference. Because if you're underground, it's going to be dark regardless. And they've got the advantage that they can see better in the dark than we can probably see in the daylight, so that ain't going to slow them down. Scarsborough said, soon I will tell about the encounter. Sorry, not ready to tell the tale. That's fine. Anytime we're on here and you want to jump in and tell your story, you're more than welcome there. That's what we're here for.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, I titled this, "What Do We Do About It All?" Me and Jay kind of rattled off. The first thing you do is you don't get scared, you don't run.
Nope.
I would add, don't point a gun at them.
Nope.
And I believe they're honestly intelligent enough. They might not know what a gun is, but they know what they do.
Oh, yeah.
Just like maybe even a camera.
Oh, I definitely know. They know something about a camera because there's way too many. We've had eye shines on the game cameras, and just at the edge of wherever they could see the infrared, that's as far as they get. So they definitely know something about the camera, or they can see it, or to avoid it, or something.
Yeah. Well, the thing about trail cams, everybody goes on about, why do they avoid? Do they really avoid trail cams, or is it, like we was talking earlier, the great outdoors is so great and so large, they don't really have to avoid your trail cams because there's still a lot of space on either side of that trail cam. They can go 20 foot to the left or the right. Trail cam never sees them. They never see the trail cam. And they might not necessarily be at avoiding them. It just might be a matter of right time, right place.
Right. And also that things may look.
I can honestly, yeah. And they very well probably can detect them somehow because.
Yep, you both disappeared. They gone. They leave me alone. Or did I disappear? What happened? Where'd everybody go?
Oh,
you're back.
We lose Wendell too that time?
Yeah, you both blacked.
I was going to say what we had to put out there is my internet, because they never see that because it don't work half the time. There's Wendell.
I'm back. I don't know what happened,
but he's coming. It's buffering. I was telling Jay, Wendell, what we ought to put out there is my internet. The Sasquatch would never know it was there because it don't work half the time.
Yeah. It's definitely having trouble. Well, that's for sure.
There's an interesting comment, if I can get it up there. I don't know if y'all can see it or not.
The Sasquatch has something.
Like
have sentries looking for the trail cams?
Yeah.
I mean, it's entirely possible. Yeah. I believe they have sentries. A lot of people think they're completely nocturnal. I believe during the daylight hours, they leave out sentries, for lack of a better word, to keep watch during the daylight hours.
Definitely. Back
just
there.
Like the deer. Deer come out and they graze during the afternoon sometime, then they go back and lay down, then they're back out again at night.
They'll definitely know that you're in the area before you know of them.
My internet keeps telling me to move closer to the router. If I move any closer to the router, I'm going to have to swallow it. That's not the problem.
Yeah, I see it pops up here every once in a while. It says move closer to the router.
Now, as far as other do's and don'ts and what to do about them, I'm all for live and let live, you know. I seem to have a pretty peaceful coexistence with them. But as far as like
Every time he gets the important part, it knocks him out.
I'll put them on my internet. That'll be the last anybody ever hears out of them. I was going to say, what seemed to work was for me was the trail cams up closer to the house because they avoid the trail cams, and the solar powered lights seemed to back them up. They kind of backed off and started staying more down towards the wood line. You still hear whoops and tree knocks. Every now and then we get a glimpse, and every now and something will mess with the trail cam or set a sensor light off, but they don't seem like they're coming up as close to the house now. The house hasn't got slapped so hard it shook since I put that stuff out anyway.
Right. Now they know that you're paying attention.
Okay, now we have two windows.
Now they know that you're paying attention.
You got two. What? That's
There
two
for a second,
gigs.
somehow window was in two different places at the same time there.
Huh.
The internet just shuts off, even though it's.
I didn't catch a word of that.
No idea what it was or where it came from.
It was just there for a second. He was two different gift squares. The way the internet's acting tonight, if a Sasquatch popped up next to us, I wouldn't be surprised. But
Well, if they don't call me Jay, everyone calls me that around.
have y'all got any more suggestions for?
Does it work?
Have y'all got any other suggestions for people that might be having trouble with them on the property, other than lights and cameras? There is a second window again.
Only thing I know is
Now we have no windows.
people just need to.
I don't know what's going on.
Just need to be patient. I mean, they got you to go outdoors and look around. That's probably just what they wanted to let you know they're there. Well, that's the same thing other people need to do.
Yeah.
Just be patient with them.
Right?
Patience. Right. Yeah. But well, like I said, just like people, you got to have patience with people.
Yep.
You get in a lot of trouble for strangling them if you don't have patience. I'm not suggesting you try to strangle a Sasquatch if you run out of patience.
Probably be kind of hard to grab something.
Scarborough said, "Cool. Do you know what the Sasquatch eat?" Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't suggest it. That'd fall under the don't do that.
Yeah.
Do not attempt to put a Sasquatch in a chokehold.
Yeah.
It says, "Cool. Do you know what the Sasquatch eat?" Anything that don't eat them first. I mean, like I said, in my opinion, they're the ultimate opportunist, ultimate apex predator.
Yeah,
What do
their
you
diet.
guys think?
Their diet.
I think we're froze.
Wendell was saying something about
The
their
internet's
diet.
had enough of me picking on it.
Wendell was saying something about their diet.
I heard their
Shane.
diet. That was the last thing I heard.
Move, Wendell. You look like you're frozen.
Yep, he's froze. Well, sometimes the picture will freeze up and audio will still be perfect. So who
Right.
knows?
From some of the studies I've seen online and
We'll
heard
give it
from
a minute.
is that most of the time in the summer months when you've got sunshine and warmer months, there's more for them to feed on, as in vegetation and stuff like that. So in the wintertime, if they're out and about, yeah, I can see where they'd have to eat meat. Because most of your vegetation ain't there in the wintertime.
I think we lost Wendell, at least for a minute.
Right.
There he is. There's one Wendell.
See the window, don't see window.
What I was going to say, a creature this big. Yeah, I've got a buffer and circle myself. I don't know if he can hear us or if we can hear him. I was going to say, a creature this size, they have to eat almost constantly. Calorie intake.
Right.
I mean, you're like I said again, you're 8, 9, 10 foot tall, 6, 8, 1,000 pounds. That requires a lot of calories to maintain.
Yep.
I mean, I'm 5'7" and 220, and I require a lot of calories to maintain. So, we'll give Wendell a chance here. Can you hear us? I think I hear you, but it sounds like you're on the far side of the room from your mic. Are you with us, Wendell? We'll just work with it. He'll come back in here sooner or later. Scarsborough said mule deer, berries, and mushrooms. Yeah, I believe it was all likely on the menu.
Right. Right.
I can barely hear Wendell. Like I said, it sounds like he's half a mile from his microphone right now, but I can just barely hear somebody talking.
Oh no, I'm all alone again. Oh well, that's part of life, I guess. There we coming back. Not both sides of the circle. There we go.
I'm right.
Are you there, Wendell? Give us just a minute, Scarborough. We're trying to get Wendell back here. He was saying something about their diet before internet acted up and cut him off there. I'll put your next question up there in a second. Wendell, if you can hear me just an ideal, try clicking your stop cam button, see if your audio will come through without the... Okay, there's the second Wendell again.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello?
I can't see or hear either one of them.
I see him. I see him. Or I can hear him, put it that way.
I can see Jay.
I can hear you a little bit now.
Oh.
Try it now.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
No. Are you
Jay
there?
can.
I can hear you, Wendell.
Oh, thank you. I thought I was talking to myself. I run all them, my two
All right, if
sons.
Jay can hear you, everybody else probably can too, and the problem's on my end. Go ahead and say whatever you was going to say about their diet, Wendell.
I just was saying that their diet varies seasonally.
I'll be back in just a second. We'll
They,
go outside and beat the internet.
It just depends on what's available. They eat fish, mussels, like I said, snails, berries, and we've even had them find that they've ate on certain tree branches, like the small ends. And it ain't a deer or nothing around where we was at because it's around 8, 9, 10 feet.
Right.
It's weird, and the teeth patterns big on the limbs, and it's not just the real narrow teeth. It's actual teeth pattern, more like a human bite. Unless some humans going out there eating tree limbs.
That's what I've noticed mostly. And a lot of these pictures people put up are just like something out of the movies. Here you got a Bigfoot with teeth like a dog or a gorilla, and it's like, nope, I don't think they have that. I think the teeth are like ours.
Yeah, from these bite patterns that's on these limbs that we've seen is more like a human bite.
That's even been found up in Colorado with a dead elk one time. They said it looked like a human had ate it.
So yeah, I'm leaning to more of that.
I don't believe they got teeth like a baboon.
Teeth like a baboon. How?
Well, they got them big bottom teeth and them big,
Like fangs?
They got them big teeth in the front and the big teeth in the bottom, kind of like a dog has for any other animal. I've never seen anything. I mean,
Oh, the canines, the big sharp canines.
Big teeth like that. No, I've never seen that before, and I have seen. I have seen one open its mouth before through a pair of binoculars, and it looked more like it had teeth like we do.
That's what I've seen from the bite
Most
marks
reports
in
and
this area.
stuff I've heard and seen.
Go ahead, Barry.
I was going to say, most reports that I've heard, read, seen, have related to me, they got human-like square teeth. I don't.
Got a question. It says, how many deer would one small group of Sasquatch require for a year? That's a pretty good number.
Yep, especially for something between 500 to 900 pound animal.
Yeah. And we've actually seen this happen in the national forest up here at Sillamore. One of the areas that they move around in, they'll be loaded with deer. And then when they move into the area, either the deer is gone or they've ate down on the population. So while you're there, if you're getting activity and eventually you don't see the deer no more, the activity stops because they're going to move where the food supply is. So we'd have to go around and find where we've seen the deer again. And that's where the Sasquatch activity would pick up. You'd find your tracks and everything again. It might only be 15 miles, but they've actually followed that deer population.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if either one of y'all remember here a couple of years ago, I talked about we went for about a year and a half, 2 year stretch where we didn't see hardly any wildlife, deers, raccoons, possums, skunks.
Yep.
You didn't hardly see anything bigger than a squirrel or a rabbit around here. And like you said, when that happened, you didn't hear or see the Sasquatch either. They've got to eat.
Yep. They've got
to follow the food supply.
They'll move where it goes.
Yeah. They got to eat and drink just like us.
Yep.
And I never did figure out what was going on during that period where all the wildlife just poof vanished from this area. I know Jay.
Oh.
Yep.
I turned my camera on and he disappeared. I guess I'll turn it back off.
We found different sightings have been seen here in Wood County, West Virginia.
My internet took the wildlife.
You disappeared.
I was going to say, I know Jay once suggested maybe somebody was putting out poison and that's where everything was going, but we never even found any carcasses or anything.
No, it's they were in the area and the deer left or everything. And when the deer left, then they went to eating everything else. And that's why you didn't have no wildlife or nothing.
Audio's acting up again.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Y'all can hear each other. Don't stop because of me.
I hear you just fine.
I can hear just fine.
Light on the subject here. Move the camera this way. I want to get eye shine of light here. Yep, I don't want to be in the big strainer either.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, look down at the phone. It's on the counter. This ain't too bad. First time I've been on a
I'm
podcast.
going to throw this comment back. It sounds good with the teeth size more like humans. What I was going to say is what I've heard, they're human shape, just like everything else, much larger in proportion.
Right.
I mean, if you can picture the size of a human tooth compared to something that's 9 or 10 foot tall, his teeth's going to be bigger just like anything else. The rest of it.
Yeah, that's what we've seen. It's more.
Their teeth are probably 2 or 3 times the size. I know I read a report here recently about one of the 12-foot tall skeletons they dug up somewhere back in the 18 or early 1900s, had teeth the size of walnuts. And that's a big tooth.
That's a big tooth. Yeah, and there's all kinds.
I can't hardly picture a tooth as big as a walnut myself.
Yeah, bigger you are, the bigger the teeth are. But as far as the shape, what we've seen in the bite marks is that they're the shape. They ain't no sharp molars or canine teeth in the bites that we've seen on these limbs, anyway. He gone again.
1 second. He gone again. But like you said, yeah, I've seen them bite marks on 8, 9 feet up on a sassafras tree.
Yeah.
And it's like only in the springtime, because by late midsummer to late fall, that spot on that bark had changed color. So it had to be in the springtime when the sap came back into a tree.
Yeah, that's what we've noticed them on them trees, and then on cherry trees and apple trees.
Well, it's like that one fellow out there in Washington or Oregon.
Well, here's a doozy of a question. If I can get it up there. Hasbro just asked a doozy of a question.
Do the Sasquatch know God?
Oh, God, yeah.
No idea.
I believe they do. I believe they might know him as well or better than us.
Depends on whose theory's right. Are they just apes or animals? Or if what I've found, what you kind of know, Barry, if they're troglodytes or if they're descendants of Esau mixed with troglodytes, yes, they know God. And then if you get over into the Nephilim and the giants and the book of Enoch, the only way that they can be saved is if they protect the human race, so, and be able to go to heaven. So it depends on what they are. Personally, I don't know if they know God or not.
Do you want to put your 2 cents worth in on that, Jay?
I'm kind of like Wendell. I don't know if they what they feel or find, but then again, there's a lot of points that are in the Bible about the people that were giants. I mean, heck, Goliath, he was 13 foot tall. So
that's a big old boy.
Yep. And you've got where they found where the Native Americans here in America out west closed in a tunnel with brush and everything and suffocated the giants that lived there.
Yep. That's the red hair giants. And you're back back to a lot of the Bigfoots have the reddish hair and red color, and there you go. Esau was born covered in red hair.
Yep.
So even
As usual, thanks to my internet, I didn't get to hear Jay's answer. But
I'll let him repeat what he said.
Let's get back on the thought of what we was talking about. I'm talking about the time of the Bible and everything, and the giant. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Talking about the time that the Indians trapped the giants out western United States and burned them out and suffocated them. Wendell was commenting on how Esau was all covered in red hair.
Right. And then he disappears again.
Yeah, no, he's there. He's listening, probably.
I'm still listening.
Oh, okay.
Circle up there.
Well, another thing on that, a lot of the native tribes, and me and Barry has had a deal a few weeks ago. We talked to another Barry, but the native tribes seen Bigfoot as like an elder brother, and a lot of them did. A lot of them seen them as demons, but a lot of them actually worked with them and learned stuff from the Bigfoot. Yep. And vice versa. So if they have any culture similar to the Native Americans, and a lot of people believe that the Bigfoot was actually a lost tribe of the Native Americans, or vice versa, then the Native Americans has all had a connection with the spirit of God, or the creator. They might describe him as something different, but there's a creator spirit. So I believe that the Bigfoot would have a connection the same as long as their lines.
Right.
Just my opinion, though. You know, that goes back. Everybody's got one, so.
Right.
I know if I'm ever in a situation where I'm too close and one's got me in its hands, I know what I'm going to say, and I believe this with all my heart and soul, that they'll let you go if you'll say Elohim Racha. And I've done a lot of study on that through the Jewish language, and if you're ever where one's got you and you don't feel that you're going to live over it, say Elohim Racha.
Elohim Racha.
Elohim Racha. He'll let you go.
Oh, man.
Barry's froze up again.
No, yeah, I just was.
I'm listening.
Oh, you're listening?
The internet hates me. That's the only possible explanation. This is turning into a grudge match. It's going to be me and the internet in a steel cage before it's over.
Hey, I'd watch that.
Yeah.
At one time, I thought about being a wrestler, and I had a bunch of buddies that was wrestlers. And I never got into it, though, but he wanted me to. I should have.
Well, I drove semi-truck one time for a while, and wearing my black khakis and everything, I was backed up to a swamp over there in east side of St. Louis, old 76 truck stop. And it was pretty well getting the dark. And I come out around the back of the trailer of the semi checking stuff. And a bunch of guys behind the truck stop. Bigfoot, Bigfoot, Bigfoot. Well, next morning I woke up. my bug shield on my semi truck said Sasquatch, and it stuck.
Huh. So that's your nickname or handle, Sasquatch?
Yep.
I got a friend in Mississippi now. He's G.I. Joe, but that's what he calls me, Sasquatch. He's Littlefoot, and I'm Bigfoot.
I'm part Creek Indian, so I also found that out the last few years.
I'm part Choctaw.
So all of us that have some native in us, we have a connection with the wilderness.
Right. I got a question. I was just thinking about it. And who do you think has more encounters or reported incidents, men or women?
I'd say probably men, because women, it seems like they've only seen them when they're on their way home from work. More instances with men.
Men's usually more out in the woods and area. From my end, I guess you call them, when I go out and interview people, it's been more with men, but women's had more encounters, like the window incident where something's looking in the window, but the majority of the men has actually seen them like you did while they was out doing something in the natural environment and see one swaying by a tree or hear it grunt or run, to where the women have like encounters, like you said, driving home or like the window or something like that. But it's been more men than women.
And another thing,
I think I know what's causing all this. I mentioned Jesus on Facebook earlier today.
Oh.
And we all know how much Facebook and YouTube love you mentioning Jesus.
Oh, you know,
so this may be their way of getting even.
Yeah, it's a wonder you ain't in jail.
It's a wonder I ain't in Facebook jail. But
yeah, that's what I was saying. I got a friend that got in Facebook jail, and all he was talking about was someone on the left, a lady that's up there that's trying to run everything. He made a comment about her, and they put him in jail because of commenting on her.
Hit there about with women and stuff. My first wife, was in that area of the month, and I told her to get out of the pasture because the bull was paying attention to her. Maybe sometimes with that, women having that pandemic every month, epidemic, I guess you call it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why women don't go so much into the woods, because when a woman has that part of the month, everything's got better senses than we do, knows it.
Yeah, and that would be interesting to see when they have the window encounters, if it was during that time of the month, because that would definitely draw them in. The same way with we've had a lot of horses and different females that would visit, and the different male horses would go just about crazy when a female was there. So we ended up having to ask that question, are you on your time of the month? Because you don't need to come around here if it is. So that could be an incident why the Sasquatch are coming in closer.
Because anybody that has horse farms and they got daughters, well, sorry, you're not allowed near the horse stalls for a week or so.
Yep.
I've heard that many a time with the horse farms down there in Kentucky.
Hang on just a second. The boss is acting up. Bo Stevens is carrying on about something. I'll be right back.
Oh,
Yeah, 1 minutes out there. I've learned how to mimic things in the woods. I used to be able to squawk just like a turkey, and instead of using box calls and mouthpieces and stuff, I learned how to do that stuff on my own. Pick up things when you live out in the country.
yeah.
I've got my own way of whooping. I've got my own way to whoop. Got my own growls, my own snarls, my own grunts. I have scared bow hunters before, especially when I'm ginseng digging in the fall. See a truck parked someplace. Yep, it's a bow hunter. Okay, I know what to do to keep them occupied. They'll leave me alone.
Right.
Sneak down through the woods, through the trees and the brush, real quiet. Make sounds that they're not used to. They're always using microphones from one headset to the other. Did you hear that? Yeah, I heard it. What was it? It's over here by me.
Right. Yeah. You're talking about noises and stuff. A lot of time at night, when you'll hear daytime birds making their noise, and here it is at night, and then you hear across the field another bird, or
Right.
even up to whistles answering them back. You're like, this ain't no birds.
Nope. Mimic them.
And
Yep.
A lot of people just wouldn't even notice that. But once you go to pointing it out, and then people say, well, yeah, that's true. And like, well, why are they doing that? And they're right, well, it ain't no bird then, is it? No, it sure ain't. And a lot of times you're in an area and you'll hear an owl, but it's in a wrong tone, or if you'll listen long enough, they'll actually mess up and kind of grunt or growl at the end of it.
Right.
And you know that's not right. So that's what I key in on, and I didn't used to be that way. I said when I used to hunt everywhere, and a lot of stuff now I look back on and put two and two together, and I'm like, oh, that's what that was.
Yep.
The first encounter I ever had, I don't know if you heard it or not, I was young teenager. I don't know, 13, 14, something like that. And I was squirrel hunting, spring squirrel hunting, and across, I was up on a bluff line, and I heard something, it's chatter talking beside it, something like that, you know, but it was from either side of the creek. And I was up on that bluff line, and I tried to see what it was, but you could tell it was moving down both sides of the creek. And I leaned out there at the bluff and listened. Finally, I just got up, man. I had the willies and went back home and was telling my uncle, and that's the one that did the ginsenging and everything. And he said, I told you stay away from there. That's where the woolly boogers was. And at the time, I didn't believe nothing about it, but that was my first encounter. And I know definitely now after listening and the Sierra sounds and everything, that's what that was. So he was right.
Yep, I've heard that sound before and turn around and holler up and say hello. Or like the Native American with the Creek Indian and the Cherokee, aho.
Yeah. I hadn't tried that. I said at the time, I didn't know what it was, but I knew I didn't need to be there. But now it'd be different.
Right.
Well, what was the verdict, Barry? Was something out there?
Well, something Something knocked one of the trash cans over again, but the lid was still on.
Let's have some tall raccoons.
Yeah.
We got a big female that comes visit me every once in a while. I'm the only one in the neighborhood that can pet her. She probably weighs 45 pounds. But I'm probably the only one in the area that can pet her. 2 weeks ago, I was walking from here. I only live 150 yards away in my apartment. And Dell walked right into me about 1 o'clock in the morning. She didn't pull back or nothing. She just held her ground. I just reached over and started petting her. I went up on one of their deck porches where I live at. That's figures. You're always that way with wildlife.
That's cool.
I figure it's a raccoon. I mean, I didn't see it, whatever it was. Knocked that can over with the lid still on it. That can was empty. It didn't have anything in it, which is kind of odd for a raccoon to bother a can.
It could be just something letting you know, hey,
Yep.
you're not paying attention. You're not out on the back deck looking around like you normally do. I'm going to knock something over and get your
Whatever it
attention.
was setting the security lights off down through there in front of me.
Maybe wondering why the can wasn't full.
I don't know if y'all heard any of that. Bo Sivas. What's that?
I said it may be wondering why the can wasn't full and just
Oh,
knocked
could
it
y'all
over.
hear that fit he had when I went out the door without him?
Just barely.
I heard both Cephas barking.
Yeah, he didn't appreciate me going out there in the dark without him. I figured probably best for him to stay where he's at. Because he's a year and a half old. He still ain't got no backup in him. I don't care what's out there.
Yep.
And needless to say, if it come down to it, they're going to have to get me before they get him. So,
Yep.
You remember back earlier this spring, Barry, I told you we was having animals disappearing and all kinds of dogs. There's like 40-something dogs within a 5-mile area here. Well, all along the creek, we'd found tracks and everything, Bigfoot tracks up through there. But when the tracks left, the dogs quit disappearing. So I don't know if it was, that was right after that big snowstorm we had here. So I think they was just looking for the quickest food source they could get. Because as soon as it warmed up and everything started blooming out, no pets has disappeared after that. So, but we had at least every other day somebody calling us and informing about their pet going disappeared. Most of them was dogs.
Yeah. I remember hearing something about that online.
yeah, I mean, I go back all the time. We all read all the reports, listen to podcasts, everything. There's always been that weird dogs don't like Bigfoot and Bigfoot don't like dogs for some reason. I mean, you hear it, read it 100 times.
Oh, BFRO, when I watched it on television, Bobo Fag, he was always real good about that. He says, yeah, you can hear them coyotes, but yet you can hear something there that's not exactly a coyote. And all of a sudden the coyotes would quit, but you'd still hear that one sound still going off.
Right. Yeah. Now, like I said, it's been a few summers ago. Between us and the neighbors, we had 27 or so cats.
Gone again.
A Sasquatch out there playing with his cable line.
Maybe. Never thought about that.
The internet 8 to 27 farm cats. And I found 2 or 3 of ours that I couldn't find a mark on them. I mean, it looked like something had just left. And the funny thing about it was, the 2 or 3 I found, I bet I found them within 5 foot of the same spot.
Huh.
And I always thought that was odd. It was like something was leaving those dead cats there for me to find, which was kind of disturbing. But, like I say, it was just weird.
And the other thing is with the ground signs they put out sometimes. People put wood down for rocks down for circles, pieces of wood down for triangles and stuff. I've come back to triangles and they were pointed in the opposite direction from where I had them put, and the rock in the center was still pointing where it was.
Huh. I've heard that, and only time we tried anything like it, we put on a log a different pattern, and we come back one time and all the rocks had been changed to pattern wise.
Right.
And
But
it was in an area that it was rough for us to even track into, so I don't think there's anybody there that could have done it.
But somebody out down in Kentucky, down in Boonesboro somewhere one time when I was a little kid, heard about it, that they put 6 rocks on one end of a log. And they went back. There were 3 logs. There was 3 rocks on one end, and the 3 of the rocks were moved to the other end. But they could tell with the brush and everything, something large had walked into the area. No other humans, because they used the same path that they used when they were there before to put the 6 rocks down.
Right.
You can tell in the brush, if you get in the high grass and stuff, you can tell the difference of what animal or what type of animal has walked through, whether it's tall, deer, or anything bigger.
That same way in the woods, the path, you could tell where they've been going because it's a lot wider path and a lot taller path usually. And where the limbs has been broke and everything. Usually, if it's just regular animals in the path, it's around 4 to 5 foot. The limbs broke or ate on or whatever. And if you get in a Sasquatch trail that's been used repeatedly, the limbs that are broke are like 8 to 10 feet high. That's where the fresh breaks are, and
Right.
and where the limbs has been gnawed on if it's in the spring.
I can understand that because you gentlemen with your height and me being 6'7", like Barry there, he's what, 5'6", 5'7". Yeah, he'd had no trouble walking through some of the limb areas that he don't have to look out for, but the limbs above his head, I would.
Yep.
So that's well understood. Yeah, I've seen that before. I've seen limbs broken off higher than I stand. And it's like, whoa, something walked through here taller than me, but it actually broke the limb.
Yep.
Oh, once I learned what to look for as far as stuff like that goes, and after my first partial sighting when I found where it crashed down through the woods, I found limbs probably 10 foot or better off the ground snapped off.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, all you got to do is learn to look up.
Yep.
And being in the woods, you both know it's a good idea to look up every now and then and make sure there ain't a bobcat laying up in a tree over top of you. So,
Right.
Yep. Around here, we're getting more mountain lions now. So,
We got a large deer population.
big cat of any kind.
At times, we have a large deer population within 100 or 2 here around town, college area, out in the woods and stuff. Then there's sometimes like last year, not last year, year before, 2019. Couldn't find a deer anywhere. The hunting season came in, all the deer came back to the town. I mean, they didn't even go out.
one of the reasons for that would be we had an area down in the lower land that there was just a few deer. There was a bunch and they disappeared. Well, when the shooting started, the deer returned. Usually it's the right opposite. If you go to hunting somewhere, the deer leave area when it's shooting. But once the shooting started down there, it's down by BB, all the deer was back. So I'm theorizing that the Sasquatch was there and we kept the deer run off. When they heard the first few shots, they was out of there. So the deer returned. But something was going on. That's how it worked out anyway.
Right.
Makes sense.
Bow season. You get a lot of hunters in the woods. Usually the deer would leave out, but also if there's any Sasquatch in the area, you get a lot of human presence walking around, and they out of there. They'll go underground or move to a different area.
Yep. And I don't know if you have that type of bushing down where you're at there, but around here in the woods, called rosewood. Pull a leaf off the bush, and it smells like rosewood. It smells like roses.
Huh.
And it's good.
I know
Stuff because bugs will leave you alone. And I had one instance where I was digging sang in the rosebud bushes, or whatever they are, which are called rosewood, and I walked in and went down, and something else got up, probably 60 feet away from me. And when I stood up, whatever was there was gone. I went back to doing what I was doing, digging some roots, and kept hearing a noise like something was scurrying away from me. But it stayed down low. And I got an idea. It took off on all fours. It wasn't a deer. Because it wasn't like did it like a deer would take off.
Right. Yeah,
you could actually hear something. You could hear the thump of all fours hitting the ground.
Yep. When they need to, they go to all fours and even faster.
I was going to say it almost sounds like this weird spider crawl or belly crawl you hear people reporting them doing, where they get down either on their hands and knees or even down flat and kind of do the crab walk type, which for some reason that's more terrifying.
Oh, doggone it, he disappeared. I was going to do my ground grunt, and I got news for you. I got people in Ohio and here in West Virginia have heard that out in the country at nighttime, certain times of the year. And they go, "Are you sure you weren't in the woods with that around our property?" I'm like, "No, it wasn't me. That's just what I've learned how to do." You're talking to Barry. You're talking about a grunt. Here's a grunt. Do you hear that?
We got that on recording.
And there's another one where they go.
Sounds pretty close to what I've heard.
Yep. Go into the woods, I just go whoop.
When I first got into doing, I still don't call myself a researcher, but doing whatever you want to call what I do. One of the first times I went out, I was just doing what I saw on Finding Bigfoot, going out there banging on trees, whooping. And way off in the distance, I heard one faint, clear as you could ask for, whoop. And it didn't really sound like that big of a creature or anything, but it was just, it wasn't a bird, it was actually something going, whoop.
Yeah.
And I stood there for a minute, and I was like, well, all right then. And this is broad daylight, and you're not really expecting to get something like that. And when it happens, you're all, like I said, you're almost in shock. You're like, well, I really did get a whoop back.
Yep.
Yeah, we've had several like that, but it was just after dusky dark, and that's what we call them is locator calls. They're trying to figure out if you're a Sasquatch or what's going on or where the other group is.
Well, it's just like with the tree knocks. Now, I've had more success with tree knocks than I have whoops. I've got the one video, where I'm sitting there knocking, and you can hear something out in there knocking back. Same number of knocks I'd do. A few seconds later, you hear 3 knocks back. And as you're doing that, it dawns on you, I may be sitting here ringing the dinner bell, telling them to come and get it by beating on this tree. But, until we come up with something better, what else are you going to do?
Right.
Take a 5-gallon half full of apples, put a lid on it, hang it up about 10, 12 feet in a tree where nothing else can get to it. You go back a week later, the lid's still on it, but the bucket's empty.
Mm-hmm.
Figure that one out.
Now, the one thing I'm learning about the audio recorder already, that is a patient man's game right there.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've got about 30 hours recorded, and I've listened to about 5 of them so far. So I'm about 2 weeks behind. And I'll go out there tomorrow and get it and download it again. I'll be 3 weeks worth of recording. It records about 13 hours at a time. Well, obviously, not too many people got time to sit and listen to 13 hours at a time of audio. I don't.
I fix say when we had our spring,
and then I got to figure out how to trim it. What's that?
When we had our spring investigation, I still got audio recorders I hadn't got to listen to all of them, and that's been since March. So that's how far I'm behind. I listen to a few minutes every time I get a chance, but when you're working 50 and 60 hours a week, you ain't got a lot of time.
Right.
Yep. That's why I'll never consider myself a actual researcher. I don't have the time to do actual professional.
While in here running your mouth about Bigfoot, and that back light's flashing on and off every few seconds.
Lights are on.
Are they laid in on the village?
Yeah, she said the light behind the house is going off every few seconds. I'm sitting there with my back to it and I haven't even noticed it.
You ain't looking for Bigfoot too bad. I'm sitting there watching the light flicker on and off. He may be out there.
Well, I was right out there a while ago, and if he was out there, he didn't bother to introduce himself.
You didn't go around that.
Well, he wasn't on when I was out there.
I'm ready to go to bed, church tomorrow.
All right, I'll be there in a little bit. Tell you good night. She gets excited when the lights start going on and off around here.
Yeah, usually good reason.
I hadn't even noticed it. Yeah. I hadn't even noticed it. Usually it shines right in my bedroom window and I'll know it's on. I hadn't even noticed it. Now Bocephus is carrying on again. I will. Hang on just a second. Y'all go ahead and talk for a minute. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I hear Bocephus barking.
Yep. He's upset about something. Ours, we have like 4 dogs around here. And we had 2 dogs come up missing during that time when all the dogs was coming up missing. That's what made me start checking out and see what was going on. But anyway, about 3 times a week between 2:30 and 3 o'clock, all kinds of racket and crap goes on around here. Dogs go crazy and everything. So,
yep.
I don't know. I got to put up some cameras. That's what I need to do.
Somebody in southeast Ohio back there about 94, they lost a coon dog, had a tracker on it and everything. where he could track it. He'd drive down the road on his four-wheeler, whatever, and the thing would go beep, 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 and the louder the beat got, the closer he got to it. Well, he did that for a couple of weeks. Then he got to where he didn't hear the beat no more. So, one time he was following year, 95. He's in another part of the woods about 5 miles away, and that sensor went off. Couldn't tell what it was, but originally it was probably feces. But he found a chip that was in his dog from the year before. And you're talking about something that's only about a quarter-inch long. He found it, but no dog.
All right. I got both. What's that?
That's kind of a good idea right there. If there's some way you could get one of them tracking collars or something small enough like that and put it inside some kind of something that they would eat, then you'd be able to track one of them. Huh. That's interesting.
That's what he had. I always thought the tracking.
I thought about if some brave soul.
And a year later, he found the tracker chip
If some brave soul could get one of those darts.
Right.
Like they tag sharks and stuff with?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll have to do some research on that. See how expensive it is. That's
I know they tag sharks and they'll keep track of them 2 or 3 miles below the surface of the ocean, halfway around the world.
Yeah. What they did with that one big shark.
But like I said, that's about my whole. What's that?
About like they did with that one monster shark in the ocean down there. They hit it with a dart, and it went so far deep in the ocean that they lost signal. It was probably 3 or 4 miles down before they lost signal.
That may be something we try to do here, depending on the cost of it.
Right. But always thinking safety. Don't want to hurt anything out there.
Right.
We don't want them to become mad at us and figure, oh, hey, what's this?
Well, I was going to say that the whole tracking dart chip thing's right up there with people that want to tranquilize them. Who's going to be the brave soul go out there with the tranq rifle and get close enough to get the dart in them?
Exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be.
I've had more than one harebrained scheme, but
I wouldn't want to be the one to shoot the dart, but like I said, if it like the peanut butter jar deal or something, if it was some way they could ingest it or stick to them with, like they pick up the jar and get it on them.
Yeah.
now I wonder, everybody talks about, I didn't catch all the conversation there, but I was thinking, all these people that talk about gifting and feeding them and stuff, I wonder if you could put one of those tracking chips in a pile of food, an apple or a pile of hamburger or whatever.
Right.
If they swallowed it.
I don't know if it'd work if it digestive juices or whatever would destroy it or not. I don't know if they work that way or not. I'll just have to see.
And then there's the question of how long it would stay with them. Would they pass it or?
Yeah.
Just an idea. Long as we're spitballing, I mean.
Right.
Right.
Well, I know the other night when I was out there hanging that audio recorder back up, and this was one of those come to Jesus moments, a tree limb not 20 foot from me snapped back. I mean, it was just like somebody had been holding it back, like me or you would, to look around that tree limb and then let go of it, and it snapped back into place. And like I said, that's one of them come to Jesus moments. I about parted ways with my skin, but because I was out there in the backyard in the dark, and that tree limb snapped, and I'm telling you, that's about the closest I've come to walking on air in a long time.
Yeah, that would startle you, that's for sure.
And it makes you wonder, you know, like me and Jay was talking earlier. Sometimes do they? We was talking. I think it was with you first. Come on. Sometimes do they do stuff like that just to get your attention, just to let you know, hey, I see you. Do you see me? You know. Or hey, I'm this close and you didn't even know it.
Yep.
And I've related that back to your Native Americans, you know, counting coup. The biggest thing was counting coup. If you could walk up to your enemy and touch them without hurting them or them knowing you were there, that was the ultimate accomplishment. Yep. And I've often wondered if that ain't similar to house slapping or all these instances where they run out 10 foot in front of a car when they could have waited 20 seconds and the car would pass and then people in it would never know they were there.
Right.
Sometimes it almost seems like they're playing a game with us.
Yep. Well, that's kind of like...
I've also related that to teenagers playing chicken.
Teenagers do that, and also we had all kinds of stuff like that, initiations, when you went into the FFA and all different clubs that you had to do stuff. So they may be along the same line. I know Native Americans would leave when a boy become a man, they'd leave him out there and he had to defend on himself and do certain steps to become a man. So maybe they're the same way.
Well, it's like they're always finding these teepee type structures in the woods and stuff. They watch the Native Americans build these teepees to live in. People are like, well, why do I have a teepee on my property? That's because this is what the animal has learned from man.
Yep.
Well, going with the Native American thing, you know, I said these beings could very well have sat back and watched the Native Americans for however long. And then along comes the Europeans, the white man, the settlers. And the Sasquatch sees what the white man did to the Native American.
Yep.
And then we wonder why the Sasquatch don't want anything to do with the white man.
Right.
I mean, if they sit back and watch what we did to the Native Americans.
Totally understandable.
Sure is.
I myself would rather be happy on 5 or 10 acres out in the woods someplace.
Me too.
Yeah, it's like everybody tells me to quit smoking. I quit smoking. I'd have to move to the middle of the Rocky Mountains in a cabin away from everybody, nothing but me, the birds and the bees and the Bigfoots. Yeah, and I'd start back 2 days after I rejoined society.
I'm a keen man.
Yeah, I could quit smoking. I just have to get away from people to do it.
Yep.
It might be killing me, but it's saving a lot of other lives.
Yeah.
I can remember them days being in the woods and no chewing tobacco and had up a bunch of sassafras leaves or dry sassafras bark, break it up, put it in my mouth, chew it the same.
Right.
Oh, I'm fine when I'm out in the woods. I don't smoke when I'm out there. Like I said, it's when I come back. around people, all of a sudden I need a cigarette.
Me and a friend of mine, we leave here and go to his property in the next county down here in the Work County. Says we get across the county line in the Work County, out of Wood County, I can relax. The same way coming back, I'm like, man,
I couldn't catch it. The audio was acting up.
We're going back to the doggone hostility.
No. Well, like I said, at least if nothing else, if the woods around here ever catches on fire, it won't be my fault because I don't even take cigarettes and stuff out there with me. But
Right.
we'll know it was somebody else. I get irritated because where there's a road that runs by the woods, people tend to throw their trash out on the side of the road.
Oh, man.
And what I wish people would realize, it don't stay on the side of the road.
No.
The wind and the air off the cars blows it over the hill into the woods. So I'm out enjoying my nature, and all of a sudden, here's a bag of trash out in the middle of the woods. And you can tell poor animals have been in it, chewing on plastic and God knows what else.
Yep.
And I mean, you talk about something that just makes me see red every time I find it. I'd like to track down whoever threw it out and just smack them upside the head.
Right.
Totally understand that. As a gold prospector, pack in, you pack out what you pack in.
Right.
My bad, I got up on my soapbox there for a minute.
Understandable.
Like I said, that's just one of my pet peeves is litter.
So like I just told him, as a gold prospector, one of the things we've got in tight knit, you pack out what you pack in. If you can't pack out what you pack in, you shouldn't have took it with you in the first place.
Yeah. People don't appreciate anything. That ain't just nature. I mean,
oh no,
you could give them a 5-story mansion on 100 acres in downtown Dallas, and some people within a month it would be trashed.
Have y'all
Excuse me.
ever had
Well, we're closing in on 3 hours here, guys.
Right. Pretty good show.
Wendell,
I just
outstanding.
Final question: have you ever heard of a Sasquatch changing or like having twigs and I say camouflage woven into their hair? I've had some reports from Oklahoma is where they actually said they've seen them covered with mud where they'd be at a creek and then had sticks and everything woven into their hair. That's the first I've heard of that.
I lived 9 years out in western Oklahoma, out in Sayre, Beckham County, and they cover themselves in mud and stuff, so nobody recognizes them when they're going across, coming around.
That's what these reports have said. It's not a real wooded area, and they was moving up and down the creeks and everything. I guess moving to an area where there is woods and stuff, and that they didn't realize what they was coming up on when they was boating in, and it come on up out of the water and run up the ditch side and across the field. But they said it actually had the sticks and mud and everything that was actually just standing there, and they didn't realize what it was till they got too close.
Right.
I've just recently got them reports, and I said I've never heard of nothing like that. But I just wondered since you've heard that too, so that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I lived out there in Oklahoma for 9 years once. A lot of strange footprints you find in the sand out there. You'd never think it'd be a Sasquatch, but You just make out something stood there with a large foot. I wear a size 14, and there's a footprint there 18, 20 inches long in the sand. I don't know of anybody walking around with boots that big.
No, me neither. Very few people has had any that big.
You was talking about the camouflage thing. That reminded me of I forget which tribe it was that called them the stone giants. And supposedly they would roll in mud and gravel and stone until it coated them almost like an armor. And of course, Native Americans, this was before the white man came along with these firearms. All they had was spears and bows and tomahawks. Supposedly the Sasquatches would roll in that to the point they had like an outer shell of gravel and mud and stuff, and arrows and stuff would just bounce right off of it. They call them the stone giants because of it, because their skin was like stone. That kind of reminded me of what you was talking about with the camouflage, the sticks and the mud and stuff there.
It go right along with it. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, you can look up the stone giants. Like I said, I can't remember which tribe it was that come from. If Barry Webster was here, he would know. I found it interesting, though.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, that's a level of intelligence.
Yeah.
That's human level or better to form camouflage or body armor.
Mm-hmm. They may do that.
And there's been reports, where they use almost military tactics.
Oh, they definitely do that.
I mean, I'm sure you all heard plenty of reports, where this one here will do something to distract you. You're watching it, you hear a noise behind you, turn back around, the one you were watching's gone.
Yep.
Something behind you distracted you just long enough for that one to get out of sight. Like I said, that's almost a military style tactic right there.
Yep.
Like that one video that was on there about 2 years ago. A woman was filming a female Sasquatch on a stump, picking whatever out of the tree and eating it. Her husband pulled up in the SUV. She turned with the camera toward the SUV, told her husband what she was looking at. When she strode back into that stump, Sasquatch was gone.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
It knew it was being watched.
One of the most famous videos, the Freeman video. Broad daylight. He's following the tracks, looks up, and there comes the Sasquatch through the foliage and the trees. Paul Freeman looks back down long enough to watch where he's walking, maybe 3 seconds tops. When he brings the camera back up, the Sasquatch is gone. He's like, where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? Have y'all seen that video? The Freeman video?
Is that what you're talking about?
No, I hadn't seen it.
It's from the 80s, I think, about 86 or somewhere along in there. And I've always said I consider it as good or better than the Patterson-Gimlin footage. Because it's not as long of a shot. You don't see it as long, but it's closer. You get a better look at it. As good as Patty is, I mean, this thing is probably only 30 yards or so from him. But he takes the camera off of it for maybe 3 seconds. When he comes back up, he can't find it anywhere. And I wonder, of course, this is just pure speculation on my part. Like we talked about them dropping down on all fours with a crab crawl or spider crawl or whatever you want to call it. They do sometimes. With that dense of foliage, even a 9 or 10 foot tall creature could probably drop down and belly crawl, and you wouldn't be able to see it. Because you can't see 20 foot in front of you down here right now.
They're incredibly fast too. If you was going to shoot one, if they're within 40 to 50 feet, you ain't gonna be able to raise your arm fast enough to shoot it. That's how fast they are, from what we've experienced. So you better done decided that's what you're gonna do. Be in the process before it happens, because you ain't gonna have time to do it if you don't. So that's why they could have been. He could have been there and either jumped and crawled on all fours or just took off. Amazing how quiet they can run through the woods. What's so crazy is how they can run through the woods and be quiet.
Right.
I don't know how they do it.
Like I said, I've always said it's not fair that they can be that big, that powerful, that fast, and move like a ninja on top of it. I mean, they got all the advantages. Their senses are better than ours. They're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, might very well be smarter, and can move like a ninja on top of it. That just ain't fair.
Well, smartness is relative, because you would think that, hey, we got computers and equipment and stuff today that we're intelligent and smart, but that people still can't move the big boulders or that the pyramids are made out of. A lot of our equipment today wouldn't even be able to move it. So who was smarter?
Right.
It just depends on it. They're smarter at living in the environment than we'll ever even think about being.
Yep. Because even those guys on television that live out in the bush or live in caves, you got one guy down in Arkansas lives in caves. He still goes to the store.
Yep. He lives not very far from where I live. It's about 20, 25 miles. And right up in the area where he's at, we've had Sasquatch encounters there near Leslie. So
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to get off here, guys. I still gotta go in, take a shower, and study my lesson for church tomorrow.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say I gotta get up and go to church in the morning too. One thing I was gonna say though, you talk about all of our modern conveniences, how smart we think we are. Who do you have more respect for, the hunter, the modern day hunter that goes out and uses a AR-15 to hunt deer? Or 200 years ago, you got up around Alaska and other parts of the world, First Nations people that were hunting whales with spears and bows.
Yeah.
Who do you got more respect for? Somebody that could kill a freaking whale with a spear, or a buffalo for that matter, hunting buffalo with spears and arrows.
Yeah, but I was going to say buffalo.
Or, modern man that goes out there with a 30-round clip.
I would say more for them.
What's that?
I would say more for the ones that go out there.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
That you bringing up about the buffalo, how they
Like
did
I said,
that.
Anybody could take a...
They wore different outfits to be able to get in close to the buffalo with different headgear and stuff like that, and be able to crawl up on them. I'm still say it's possible that Bigfoot does that. Where you have in like out east where they say, well, I seen like the goat man or different, like a wolf appearance. Who's to say the Native Americans did it? They either learned it from somewhere, or maybe Bigfoot learned it from them. But I think they're possible they can do that.
We've said that 100 times. Who taught who?
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I never thought about the headgear thing until you brought it up just now. And I don't want anybody out there to get the wrong idea. I don't have anything against hunting or hunters. My whole point is just,
anybody can carry a deer with a 30-round clip. I mean, a 10-year-old child can do it. Like I said, it takes a mighty good man to go out there with a spear and drop a buffalo, or go out in a canoe with a spear and kill a whale. That's just a
Right.
whole nother level of prowess, or whatever you want to call it, right there.
Whole
Yeah,
nother level of
Like I
skill.
said, I got more respect for the latter than I do the former. Yeah. Like I said, I don't have anything against hunting or fishing, especially if you're going to eat what you hunt and fish. I mean, that's fine. But my hat's off to the guys taking a buffalo down with a piece of wood with a rock tied to the end of it, more or less. Well, like y'all said, it's about time for us to get off here. We got church in the morning.
Yep.
What's that?
I just said, me too. My hat's off to them.
We're over 3 hours anyway. Yeah. Well, it's been a great night. We've had great discussion, all kinds of good points, questions and answers, and speculation, and everything in between. Jay, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your experiences with us. It was new and fresh. Like I said, I heard things I'd never heard before, the two-tone fur color and stuff like that, and your experience with when you fell and got hurt. I mean, that's just nothing short of a miracle right there, really.
Right.
To think that this thing picked you up and carried you back and helped your father come out and find you. That's divine intervention in my book. I mean, people call me crazy, but that almost sounds like God. Your guardian angel was a Sasquatch that day.
Yep.
I appreciate you sharing it with us, man. Wendell, it's always good to have you. Always intelligent conversation, like-minded people and all that. God bless you both. Appreciate you coming on.
Good to meet you, Jay.
Yeah, good to meet you too, Wendell.
All right, well, I'll kill the live broadcast. We'll still be in the studio if you want to stick around a couple more minutes. I don't know if the internet will work any better, but we'll see.
Right.
It's getting that time of night.